Nepal to enforce election code of conduct from January 17 launches election police recruitment process. Rift in Nepali Congress deepens as disgruntled faction intensifies preparation for special convention. Establishment faction urged delegates to refrain. 5 cameras installed for ongoing tiger census in Nepal's Chitwan National Park lost. 2 other cameras damaged by elephant. UN unveils the 2026 World Economic Situation and Prospects Report, predicts global growth to stabilize at 2.7% amid global trade tensions. Venezuela's interim president rejects U.S. control claims following Maduro's capture, adds Venezuela not subjugated by the U.S. And Nepal loses to Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held in Kathmandu. Good evening, I am April Singlama and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepali time. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in details. The Election Commission, EC, briefed Prime Minister Sushila Karki today on the Code of Conduct for the upcoming House of Representatives election, which will take effect on January 17. Acting Chief Commissioner Ram Prasad Bhandari and other senior officials also discussed election management and preparations. The Election Commission announced that political parties and independent candidates can access the voter list across the country for a fee. Parties can obtain the full national list for 10,000 Nepali rupees, which is approximately $75, and for provincial list for 5,000 Nepali rupees, which is around $38, and district or constituency list for 3,000 rupees, approximately $28. The data will be provided electronically on a hard drive or pen drive, excluding voters' dates of birth, citizenship numbers, and mobile numbers. Voters wishing to access their own information can request a copy of their details from election officers. Election officers are required to provide access in a way that prevents tampering, damaging, or altering the official voter list. Meanwhile, the government has begun accepting applicants for temporary election police today, with the recruitment process open until January 15. Nepal Police said election police will be deployed after completing the required procedures. Security preparations will involve more than 3,000 personnel under a 3-layer system, including the Nepal Army, Nepal Police Armed Force, and temporary election police. Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal has assured that ministers in the current government will not favor any political party and that the upcoming elections will be held on schedule. At a Bagmati province level security workshop organized by the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Provincial Ministry of Internal Affairs and Law, Aryal urged all stakeholders not to doubt the government's commitment to conducting elections on the prescribed date.
कामचलाउ सरकार दलीय सरकार हुने भएको हुनाले त्यसमा पनि अहिले विश्वास भएन। सबै नयाँ पुराना युवा पुस्ता सबैलाई विश्वास दिलाउने, सबैलाई बराबर अवसर दिलाउने सरकार, चुनावको माध्यमबाट सबैलाई बराबर अधिकार दिलाउने, बराबर विश्वास दिलाउने सरकारको जन्म चाहिँ अहिले राष्ट्रपतिज्यूको आदेशबाट भएको छ, आन्दोलनको म्यान्डेटबाट भएको छ। भनिसकेपछि सरकारमा बस्नेहरूलाई कतै पनि ढल्किने छुट छैन। यो कुरामा म समर्थन गर्छु। यदि हामीबाट कमी कमजोरी भाछन् भने पनि सरकार त्यो कमी कमजोरी सच्याउन तयार छ।
Moving on, Minister for Forest and Environment Madhav Prasad Taulagai today assumed the additional responsibility of the Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport. On the occasion, he signed a minute endorsing a decision to urge the Asian Development Bank to include the Karnali Highway in its project pipeline for road upgrading and safety improvement. Similarly, he approved a decision to relocate the Bailey Bridge over the Hima River at Nagma, located on the border of Jumla and Kalikot, following the construction of a concrete bridge over the river. The Bailey Bridge will be shifted to the Tila River to connect wards 5 and 4 of Tatopani Rural Municipality in Jumla. The The minister also signed a decision to form a 5-member committee under the coordination of Joint Secretary Sushil Babu Dhakal. The committee will submit recommendations for amending the criteria related to the qualifications of Class D construction entrepreneurs as mentioned in Schedule 13 of the Construction Business Rules 2056 BS. The post at the Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport had fallen vacant following the resignation of former Minister Kulman Gising. Prime Minister Sushila Karki assigned Chaulagai the responsibility of the ministry. Now, as the disgruntled faction of Nepal Congress prepares to hold a special convention, internal tensions within the party have escalated. Party General Secretaries Gagan Kumar Thapa and Bishwa Prakash Sharma announced that the convention will take place in Kathmandu on January 10 to 11, which is on Sunday. Now, despite opposition from the party's establishment faction, more than 30 district chiefs have reportedly expressed support for the event. Thapa and Sharma confirmed that the convention will proceed, citing backing from over 54% of delegates. Meanwhile, the establishment faction has urged delegates to refrain from attending any unofficial activities, stating that such actions violate party rules, while preparations are in full swing at Phirkuti Mandap in Kathmandu for the Nepali Congress Special Convention scheduled for January 11 to 12. Party workers and organizers are setting up the venue, arranging logistics for delegates and coordinating security measures to ensure the smooth conduct of the event. Moving on, 5 of the cameras installed in Nepal's Chitwan National Park for the ongoing tiger census have gone missing, while 2 have been damaged by an elephant. National Park authorities learned it while they were preparing to retrieve them after completing the first phase of the census. Cameras were installed across around 286 grids of the national park for the tiger census that commenced on December 16 last year. The census was initiated by treating Chitwan and Persa National Parks as a single block. The first cluster covered the Tribeni, Amaltari, Kasara and Brandabar areas. The census is currently underway in the second cluster, where 13 camps have been established. This cluster includes Sauraha, Khagendramali, Lotha, Pratapur, Harda, Bote, Simar, Someshwar, Bagai, Ambua and extends up to Sikharibas. Nepal has a count of 355 adult tigers as per the National Tiger Census conducted back in 2022. Among these, 128 were found in Chitwan National Park, 125 in Bardia National Park, 25 in Bake National Park, 41 in Persa National Park and 36 in Suklaphata National Park. Now, as traditional Magi festival draws near, Tharu settlements across various districts of Nepal are witnessing heightened activity with cultural programs and celebrations underway to mark the occasion. The indigenous Tharu community celebrates Magi festival as their new year. The festival is celebrated manually on the Magh 1st of the Nepali calendar that generally falls on mid-January. The Magi festival involves several traditional practices that are central to the social and cultural life of the Tharu community. Among these, planning the year's work is a key ritual during which community members set goals and make arrangements for agricultural, social and economic activities for the coming year. Another important practice is the selection of village head, locally known as Mahatwa, who plays a crucial role in local governance, dispute resolution and maintaining social order. According to community leaders, these traditions are not only ceremonial but also serve to strengthen the cultural identity of the Tharu people and foster cohesion within the community. The Tharu settlements also buzz with Magota dances and the lively beats of Dhamar and Dhumru songs. Additionally, cultural programs hosted during the Magi highlighting not only the identity of the Tharu community but also promoting social harmony and cultural diversity. The Tharu community is widely distributed across Nepal, residing in 23 districts, spanning from Jhapa in the east to Kanchanpur in the west of the country. Now, the rich folk culture of the Tamang community in northern Nepal, Darsua, has become a key attraction for tourists. Integrating indigenous culture with tourism has generated income and employment while helping preserve and pass down traditional festivals in the verge of extinction. Our colleague Rojina Rai with local correspondent Sushil Koirala explains more.
In the quiet settlement of the Tamang community in northern part of Nepal, Rasua, festivals are becoming more than just a cultural celebrations. They are drawing visitors from near and far and travelers captivated by the unique traditions of the Tamang people. These festivals are windows into a rich heritage, inviting outsiders not just towards but to immerse themselves in local life. Over recent years, this region has grown into a hub for tourists, both domestic and international, eager to witness the rituals and practices that define the Tamang way of life.
अन्तर्गत भए पर्यटन बढ्यो खण्डमा होमस्टे व्यवस्थापन सञ्चालकहरूलाई अवश्य फाइदा पुग्नेछ।
With this influx of visitors comes opportunity. Tourism brings income, employment, and a chance to share the community's stories to the world. Along the Tamang Heritage Trail, winter festivals like Zizu and Mola offer an intimate glimpses into traditions, where each dance, song, and ceremony tells a story passed down through generations. For the locals, these festivals do more than entertain. They strengthen social bonds, foster unity, and remind everyone of the value of cooperation. Through music, performance, and communal celebration, visitors gain a true sense of Tamang culture, while the community takes pride in its enduring heritage. Their ceremonies also carry a deeper meaning. Many believe they maintain social order, ward off famine, and even help curb diseases in the village, ensuring that every member of the community contributes. During the festivities, men and women dress in traditional attire, their dances and song echoing through the hills. The colors, the rhythms, the energy, they leave a lasting impression, creating an unforgettable experience for all who attend. In the Tamang festivals of Rasua, culture is alive, vibrant, and endearing, a living testament to a community proud of its roots and eager to share them to the world. Rojina Rai with local correspondent Sushil Koirala, Rasua, Nepal.
We'll take a short break here. Stay tuned. UN's Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development, U.S. Secretary General for Economic Development Naveed Hanif has said the global economy has demonstrated resilience while underlying weaknesses persist, and growth has remained steady below pre-pandemic rates but stronger than previously anticipated. Hanif projected economic growth to stabilize at 2.7% this year compared to 2.8% in 2025 at the launch of the 2026 World Economic Situation and Prospects Report.
As we bid farewell to a turbulent 2025, our assessment indicates that the global economy has demonstrated resilience. Growth has remained steady, below pre-pandemic rates, but stronger than previously anticipated. We project economic growth to stabilize at 2.7% this year, compared to 2.8% in 2025. Last year, sharp tariff hikes disrupted global trade. Yet the system proved more resilient than anticipated. But resilience should not be mistaken for strength.
The report, however, indicates that the impact of higher tariffs coupled with elevated macroeconomic uncertainties is expected to become more evident in 2026. Moving on, Russia has used the Oreshnik ballistic missile as part of a massive overnight strike on Ukraine. 4 people were killed and 25 others injured in Kyiv on Thursday night, where loud booms could be heard for several hours, setting the sky alight with explosions. It is only the second time that Moscow has used this ballistic missile, which was first deployed to hit the central city of Dnipro in November 2024. Russia's defense ministry said the strike was a response to a Ukrainian drone attack on Vladimir Putin's residence in late December, which Kyiv denies carrying out. The Oreshnik is an intermediate-range hypersonic ballistic missile, meaning it can potentially reach up to 5,500 kilometers. It is thought to have a warhead that deliberately fragments during its final descent into several independently targeted inert projectiles, causing distinctive repeated explosions moments apart. Venezuela's interim president Delcy Rodriguez has insisted that her country was not subjugated by the United States following a U.S. military operation that resulted in the capture of deposed leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. The U.S. operation on January 3rd involved strikes in Caracas and other regions and led to Maduro's transfer to New York, where he had pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking and related charges. U.S. President Trump has since suggested the U.S. will oversee a transition in Venezuela, a claim Rodriguez and other Venezuelan officials have publicly contested. Rodriguez also said Venezuelans fought back during the attack, rejecting assertions by U.S. President Donald Trump that Washington now effectively runs the country. She also dismissed that Caracas simply surrendered and farming the U.S. action as an act of aggression against her country's sovereignty. Now, moving on, youth protests continue across Iran with demonstrators marching in Tehran and other cities in the largest anti-demonstrations in years. Protesters could be heard in the Iran. The protesters could be heard in the footage calling for the overthrow of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and the return of Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the late former Shah, who had urged his supporters to take to the streets. The protest came not only after Reza Pahlavi, whose father was overthrown by the 1979 Islamic Revolution and lives in Washington, D.C., had called on Iranians to take to the streets and as a united front. The unrest that has been sparked by anger over the collapse of the Iranian currency and has spread to more than 100 cities and towns, leaving many of missing are believed to be workers and in the landfills. Now, moving on, a mountain of rubbish collapsed at a landfill in the central Philippines on Thursday, killing a 22-year-old woman. This happened in Cebu City, where 30 people are missing. Rescuers pulled 12 injured sanitation workers from debris at the Binalwi landfill in Cebu City, who were later hospitalized. Many of the missing are believed to be workers at the landfill. Some 300 people from various government agencies and civilian groups have been deployed to the privately owned landfill. Several excavators, ambulances and fire trucks have also been seen on site. The mayor of Cebu said it may be difficult to reach survivors because of the potential for further collapse. The cause of the collapse is still unclear, but it is likely due to poor waste management practices. Now, Australians sought relief along Melbourne's beaches as a severe heat wave pushed temperatures past 40 degrees Celsius, while authorities ordered evacuations in dozens of rural communities across the state of Victoria due to an escalating bushfire threat. Emergency services warned that extreme heat, dry conditions and strong winds had created dangerous fire conditions, prompting evacuation alerts for several hamlets in high-risk areas. Officials describe fire danger ratings as unusually severe for this early in the season. Authorities urge residents in affected areas to follow evacuation orders and remain alert as conditions were expected to remain volatile, with the firefighters on high alert across the region. We'll take a short break here. Stay tuned. You're watching NTV World. Welcome back. Now, China has made progress in scientific data simulation for the Chinese Space Station Telescope CSST, also known as the Zhongtian Space Telescope, marking a crucial step in preparing for the country's flagship space astronomy facility. A collaborative Chinese research team built an end-to-end observation simulation suite for both the telescope's main optical system and various observation terminals. The suite achieved a high-quality pixel-level simulation of observation data, which will be used for the comprehensive evaluation of the telescope's overall performance. The research is expected to facilitate major scientific discoveries across various astrophysical fields, including cosmology, the study of galaxies, the Milky Way, stars, and planets. The CSST is an important component of China's space station. After launch, it will fly independently in the same orbit as the space station and can dock with the station for supply, maintenance, and upgrades. Now, in another development from the world of space, NASA says its crew members aboard the International Space Station ISS are expected to return to Earth within days after one astronaut experienced a medical issue. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman said it the first such medical evacuation in the orbital lab's history.
A single crew member on board the station experienced a medical situation and is now stable. After discussions with Chief Health and Medical Officer Dr. J.D. Polk and leadership across the agency, I've come to the decision that it's in the best interest of our astronauts to return Crew 11 ahead of their planned departure. In the coming days, the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft will depart the International Space Station with Commander Zena Cardman, pilot Mike Fink, Kimya Yui from JAXA, and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos, and safely return them to Earth. We expect to provide a further update within the next 48 hours as to the anticipated undock and reentry time. Over the last 5 months, Crew 11 contributed to the ongoing operations of the space station, conducted extensive scientific research, completed the majority of their mission objectives, and upheld the standards of professionalism for which astronauts are known. In the meantime, NASA astronaut Chris Williams, having launched to the station on November 27th on Soyuz MS-28, maintains our American presence in space and will support the space station's operations and scientific.
Tens of thousands of Filipino Catholics crowded the streets of the capital on Friday as a centuries-old statue of Jesus Christ was paraded through Manila in the country's largest annual religious gathering. The day-long procession, which began before dawn, featured barefoot devotees hauling the heavy carriage bearing the Black Nazarene through narrow streets in Cuerpo district. Many in the crowd strained to touch the icon, which is believed by the faithful to possess miraculous healing powers. The event, held each January, regularly draws millions of participants and has in past years led to injuries due to crushing and exhaustion. Church officials urge devotees to remain calm and follow safety guidelines while local officials advised the public to expect traffic disruptions throughout the day. The procession highlights the deep-rooted Catholic faith of the Philippines, where more than 80% of the population identifies as Romanic Catholic. A small Revis moontag, a deer native to China, has made headlines this week after confronting a much larger rhinoceros at Wrocław Zoo in southwestern Poland. The incident, captured on video and shared by the zoo on social media, shows the small deer, weighing just a fraction of the rhino's 1.7-ton frame, standing its ground against the massive animal. Wrocław Zoo described the encounter as a remarkable display of the deer's courage. Zoologists note that these deer are naturally territorial and can display surprising boldness despite their small size. The zoo confirmed that neither animal was harmed during the interaction. The footage has drawn widespread attention online, highlighting on the unexpected interaction that can occur in controlled zoo environments. Time for sports update. Nepal has been defeated by Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held today. During the match held at TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur of Kathmandu, Scotland defeated Nepal by 27 runs, chasing the 184-run victory target posted by Scotland. Nepal was limited to 156 runs in allotted 20 overs at the loss of 6 wickets. Nepal's Samjana Khadka scored the highest 52 runs. Similarly, Kavita Kunwar made 29 runs, Captain Indu Verma 28 runs and Kavita Joshi 22 runs. Darcy Carter of Scotland took 3 wickets, while Catherine Bryce, Olivia Bell and Chloe Abel took 1 wicket each. Earlier chose to bat first after winning the toss. Scotland gathered 183 runs in 20 overs by losing 6 wickets. Catherine Bryce made 62 runs in 28 balls, while Priyanaz Chatterjee 40 runs. Likewise, Rubina Chetri and Kavita Kunwar of Nepal took wickets each, while Riya Sharma and Rachana Chaudhary 1 wicket each. Now, Kazuyoshi Miura remains determined to prove he can still compete at the professional level as the former Japan international prepares for his 41st season in football at the age of 58. Miura, widely known as King Kazu, has joined J3 League club Fukushima United on a 6-month loan ahead of the new Japanese season, which begins in early February. The move extends a career that began in 1986 and has made Miura the world's oldest active professional footballer. Miura earned 89 caps for Japan, scoring 55 goals and played a key role in the national team's rise during the 1990s. His club career has spanned teams in Japan, Brazil, Italy and Australia, including spells with Santos, Girona, Yokohama FC and Sydney FC. Miura's latest move underscores his enduring dedication to football more than 4 decades after turning professional. Manchester City boosted their attacking options on Friday by signing forward Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth for a reported $87 million. The 24-year-old Ghanaian international joins the club as Pep Guardiola seeks to add depth and versatility to a star-studded forward line ahead of the remainder of the season. Semenyo, known for his pace, dribbling and goal-scoring ability, is expected to compete immediately for a place in City's attack. The acquisition underscores City's ambition to maintain dominance in both domestic and European competitions. Now, before wrapping up, here's a look into the top stories once again. Nepal to enforce election code of conduct from January 17 launches elected police recruitment process. Rift in Nepali Congress deepens as disgruntled faction intensifies preparation for special convention. Establishment faction urged delegates to refrain. 5 cameras installed for ongoing tiger census in Nepal's Tikon National Park lost. 2 other cameras damaged by an elephant. UN unveils the 2026 World Economic Situation and Prospects Report, predicts global growth to stabilize at 2.7% amid global tensions. Venezuela's interim president rejects U.S.-controlled claims following Maduro's capture, adds Venezuela not subjugated by the U.S. And Nepal loses to Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held in Kathmandu. That is all for the moment. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepali time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website www.nepaltelevision.com. I am Iprulagi Singlama. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
A city known for its legacy, Kirtipur. Locals also call it Kipu in their own dialect. It is the largest ancient settlement after Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur. The city still has an impressive Malla era neighborhood. It is also home to Taudaha, the largest lake in the Kathmandu Valley. There are temples, monasteries, bihars, and stupas for both Hindu and Buddhist devotees, along with countless festivals and ritual celebrations that altogether give Kirtipur its distinct and special character. With its ancient Newar settlements, this place is a beautiful convergence of Newar culture and heritage. The 2nd century settlements here, the temples and the stupas, along with the legends and the faiths surrounding them, are fascinating. Situated beside the Kathmandu Valley, which once was a natural lake itself, Kirtipur developed as a flourishing hub of early settlement and culture. Because of this, the area is exceptionally valuable for historical and cultural study. A long time ago, the children of Kirtipur's farming families apparently made a clay tiger to play with while herding sheep and goats. To make that tiger look even more lifelike, they wanted to add a tongue. So they left their sheep and goats nearby and went into the forest to gather leaves for it. Upon returning, the children found their sheep and goats missing. And when they investigated, the clay tiger opened its blood-red mouth and claimed to have eaten the animals. Apparently, what had happened was that the deity Bhairav, a Hindu deity, had entered the clay tiger. In their anger, the children then cursed the clay tiger so that its mouth would remain perpetually open. This is the famous legend behind the Bagh Bhairav temple as remembered by the residents of Kirtipur. Bagh Bhairav is the revered deity of Kirtipur's residents. Situated in Kirtipur, this temple is accompanied by several smaller temples, many of which can be traced back to the 2nd century according to the historical records. Among them are temples dedicated to Yamaleshwar, Narayan, Bhavani Shankar, Ramchandra, Manavinayak, Vishwakarma, Sridhar Vishnu and Mool Ganesh, all of which were constructed in the 2nd century as per many inscriptions. The historical records mention that the Bagh Bhairav temple, originally made by Shivadev, was again renovated in the 16th century by Jagatpal Varma into a 3-tiered pagoda style. This makes the temple a central attraction of Kirtipur. Most Newar settlements, which are one of Nepal's ethnic groups, are adorned with temples and stupas. So Kirtipur is home to countless temples and stupas as well, too many to count by hand. The Uma Maheshwar temple here is located at the highest point in Kirtipur. From here, one can take in panoramic views of the entire Kathmandu Valley. Swayambhu, an ancient Buddhist stupa, is clearly visible from this vantage point. It is said that the temple's elevation is roughly the same as that of Swayambhu's. On clear days, the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, can also be seen from here. Uma Maheshwar, representing the Hindu deities of Shiva and Parvati in another form, is considered a symbol of family happiness and love. The temple's tiered roofs, its design, the surrounding houses, and the views are not only beautiful but also reflect its historical significance. It is an excellent place to explore and spend an entire day. Kirtipur is special not only for Hindu devotees but also for Buddhists. Its stupas and bihars are ideal for the study, research, and promotion of Buddhism. The Chilanchu Stupa, located atop the hill, is said by historians to have been built during Emperor Ashok's visit to Nepal. Its renovation, however, took place in the 16th century during the time of Jagatpal Varma. This site is ideal for prayer and meditation. It feels like Chilanchu spreads wisdom along with its fluttering flags under the open sky. It is said that seeing the hills surrounding the Chilanchu Stupa, Prithvinarayan Shaha, the 18th century king who unified Nepal, coveted Kirtipur. His attempts to capture Kirtipur, intended to make conquering Kathmandu, Bhaktapur and Patan easier, only succeeded on the third try. Facing south is Ratnasambhav, mounted on a horse and showing the Varad Mudra, which is a gesture of generosity and granting boons. Facing north is Amitabh, seated on a peacock in the meditation mudra, symbolizing infinite light and compassion. Facing west is Amogha, seated on a Garud with the Nag hood in Abhay mudra, a gesture of fearlessness and protection. At the center sits Vairochan, mounted on a lion and invisible, imparting profound knowledge of Buddhism. The presence of these 5 Buddhas is believed to guide those who have lost their way, whether it is in spiritual seeking or in travel. The stupas, vajras, and stone statues here are enchanting, capable of captivating visitors for hours. In Panga of Kirtipur, there is a cremation site. The deceased of the Panga community are cremated here, but this place is different from others. According to local tradition, one cannot stay behind after setting the body on fire. Normally, in other places in Hindu tradition, after the cremation, the ashes are collected after a process that can take up to hours. Here, however, bodies are covered with 9 pieces of wood for adults and 7 for children, along with water-soaked straw. Then the fire is lit before it is time to leave the site. This tradition is only for the people of Panga. Next to the burial ground stands the Vishnu Devi temple, one of the several Shakti Peeth or sacred power sites of the people of Kirtipur. This stupa houses the Pancha Buddha, the depiction of 5 knowledge of Buddha. Facing east is Akshobhya, mounted on an elephant and with earth-touching gestures. The area is peaceful and known for its spiritual atmosphere. Kirtipur is not only famous for its monasteries and chaityas, it is also rich in history and culture. This place is known for its year-round festivals, rituals, and vibrant cultural way of life. Among the important festivals are the Satgaunle Jatra, Gai Jatra, Bagh Bhairav Jatra, and Indrayani Jatra. On the day of Gai Jatra, a special dance is performed here. The Dhyodhya Papa dance, also called Kathmar, is a ceremonial performance where dancers in unique costumes move to traditional music. It is an integral part of Kirtipur's cultural identity. Here, visitors can also find various hotels, homestays, and Newari restaurants. The Newari-style houses and pathways decorated with traditional materials are truly captivating, and the popular Newari restaurants, which draw people from all around, are plentiful. A beautiful example of Newari culture is Newari food, which include famous dishes like bara, yomari, and samay bhaji. And visitors relish these dishes with great enjoyment. Just before entering Kirtipur, you arrive at another beautiful spot, Taudaha. Known for its environmental, cultural, and religious significance, this pond stretches about 500 meters in length and 400 meters in width. It is said to be shaped like a funnel. Believed to be dwelling place of Karkotak Nag, a serpent king in Hindu-Buddhist mythology, this lake is closely linked to the legends of Manjushri, a Hindu-Buddhist mythological figure, and the Rato Machindranath Jatra, one of Nepal's oldest chariot festivals. According to the folklore, when the Kathmandu Valley was still a lake, Manjushri cut open the hills to draw the water. The serpents living there were left without a home, so Bhimsen, a powerful heroic figure in Nepali folklore, created Taudaha to shelter them. The famous photo or vest displayed during the Rato Machindranath Jatra also traces its origins to Karkotak Nagraj and Taudaha. Legend says the vest belonged to Karkotak Nagraj, who gifted it to a farmer after the farmer cured his sick serpent queen. When the farmer later lost the vest, the dispute over who truly owned it became the story behind the festival where the vest is displayed. Taudaha is rich not only in religious and cultural significance but also in biodiversity. The area is home to 38 species of plants, 36 species of insects, and 116 types of birds. Swans gliding across the lake, birds perched in nearby trees, colorful fish swimming below, and small snakes seen occasionally along the banks. All of it make it easy to lose track of time while observing this vibrant ecosystem. In winter, birds migrate here from Siberia, Mongolia, and Tibet to escape the cold. Species such as lahari, kalihas, khoya, malak, and birds like great cormorant and Indian pond heron are also found here at Taudaha. These migratory birds travel thousands of kilometers from various countries to reach this lake. As a wetland area, Taudaha hosts water, land, vegetation, aquatic animals, amphibians, and other wildlife all in one place. For this reason, the lake attracts everyone from casual tourists to students conducting research. As tourist numbers increase, so have vendors selling fish feed around Taudaha. These traders who stay around the lake from morning to evening occasionally also encounter snakes. But believing the snakes to represent Karkotak Nagraj, the traders drive them away by just burning incense. Just before reaching Taudaha, Chobar is a unique tourist spot in Kirtipur. Manjushri Park here is one of the popular picnic destinations. The cave, Chobar Gorge, Suspension Bridge, Jalvinayak Temple and Adinath Lokeshwar Temple are all must-visit sites. This gorge is said to be where Manjushri cut the hills to drain water from the Kathmandu Valley, making it suitable for human settlement. Therefore, this place holds historical and mythological significance. Jalvinayak Temple is located along the Bagmati River. Among Kathmandu Valley's four main Ganesh temples, Surya Vinayak, Chandra Vinayak, and Ashok Vinayak, Jalvinayak is one of them. It is built in traditional pagoda style. Toran or archways, doodle or roof struts, and gajur or pinnacles enhance its architectural beauty. So this temple is significant both for religious faith and for historical and architectural value. Spread over 14.76 square kilometers, Kirtipur has many places to explore, which cannot be fully visited in a single day. Its heritage, lifestyle, and festivals are all unique. To guide tourists before visiting, a tourist information and service center has been established. It lies near the Kirtipur's entry point. This center provides information about major tourist attractions and helps make the visit easier. Exploring Kirtipur's historical, religious, cultural, and natural sites is incredibly enchanting. These sites are witnesses to history. For research and study, visiting Kirtipur is essential. The local lifestyle, daily life, the breeze, and the scent of the soil here, all of it are very special. In modern times, as ancient civilizations threaten to vanish, Kirtipur strives to maintain its ancient identity. Its monasteries, temples, chaityas, ponds, markets, and even the language reflect this heritage. Kirtipur is not just a tourist destination, it offers experiences of meditation and knowledge, and of peace and beauty. Its stories and hospitality attract everyone. To witness and feel the unique confluence of history, culture, and nature, visiting Kirtipur is a must, not just once, but again and again.
Less than 4 years remain until 2030. That's the deadline for Sustainable Development Goals set by countries worldwide. Governments, scientists and communities have committed to ambitious targets, from limiting global temperature rise under the Paris Agreement to protecting at least 30% of Earth's land and oceans under Global Biodiversity Framework. But despite these commitments, data suggests that we are far from where we need to be. Protected areas cover only a fraction of the target. Funding gaps are measured in hundreds of billions each year, and nature-based solutions remain dramatically underfunded. On today's episode of Insight, we are speaking on this matter with Dr. Maheshwar Dhakal, Joint Secretary in Nepal government. He holds a PhD in environmental science and currently leads the Climate Change Division. Dr. Dhakal, welcome to NTV World Insight.
Thank you very much.
The data that I could access, the latest one that I could access, showed that only about 17.6% of terrestrial areas and 8.5% of oceans are protected. That is far below the 30% target by 2030. Do you think this gap is large? And if so, what does it mean for biodiversity and climate resilience worldwide?
You are very much clear that the 30% target by 2030 is a very ambitious target. Let's compare in two levels, at a global level and our country context. In the beginning, in 2010, when COP10 was decided, 2020 targets in Aichi in Japan, at that time the target what we set, we means all the parties of CBT conventions, but unfortunately none of the parties they achieved the targets. But on the other hand, if you compare to Nepal, already Nepal has 23% of the port area coverage, right? But when this result was discussed in 2015, it's called Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework, which is the 15th COP in Canada, and international communities they agreed again to reach the level of 30 target, but with some flexible mechanisms. It's called OECD, other environmental conservation measure. It's the very flexible modality, unlike the port area and wildlife reserve or hunting reserves. It's together with the local communities and with assurance of the rights of the local communities. Different mechanism we proposed, and government of Nepal also agreed to that mechanism. And we already initiated one strategy regarding to the OECD. If you compare more specifically, we do have a couple of areas where we have to conserve it. For example, I would like to give the very visible example is Godavari forest area, which is very intact in terms of biodiversity conservation, but yet to be decided none of the port area systems. And government of Nepal, particularly our Ministry of Forest and Environment, we declare is the conservation of forest is the one of the mechanism under the forest law. There are a couple of areas across the country in Nepal. If you go eastern region, the Tinjure Milke Jaljalli, the Laligruas area is one of the best area to declare another port area. And at the same time, if you go to the Panchase, is interconnected with Sengja, Kanski and Parvat. And similarly, if you go to the more lowland, the Dhankhola area, Kopilpastu, Dang and Argakhansi. And at the same time, Jogbuda and some of the Limi Valley in the high mountains region in Humla. These are the some areas we can declare it's a special category of the port area management. In your questions, if you compare to Nepal, Nepal is pretty comfortable positions to reach that target. But if you compare to the global scales, then definitely there are some still challenges, because the very short answer and very quick point is most of the developed countries and some developing countries, they are not very much encouraging or motivating to declare new port area system, but at the same time for public consumptions they used to speak in the public forum, but at country levels they are not very much interested. That is the situation. Just 4 years is remaining to reach to this target, right? But if we adopt, we means all the parties, convention parties adopted the OECM mechanism, then I am hopeful that the global community can reach the target.
When we talk of climate change and biodiversity, we often treat them as separate issues. Is this one crisis or two?
You mean the climate change and biodiversity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even with UN, there are separate conferences.
I think, yeah, it's very nice question. If you go by 1992, when Rio Convention was held in Brazil, at that time 3 conventions were declared at the same time, at the same place. They are the climate change, biodiversity and desertifications. But if you go through the process of implementations, then climate change is implementing more aggressively. Sometimes the part of climate justice is coming very prominently, and forefront agenda is considered by many communities. On the other hand, biodiversity parties also looks very nice, because most of the countries, they are doing their best job. But desertification, maybe very few countries are highly impacted from the desertification. That's why this convention is discussed very little in the international arena. But in my opinion, these 3 conventions are interconnected and interrelated each other to save the environment and protect the planet. They are interconnected. Yeah.
Now, countries have been part of frameworks like the Paris Agreement and also Global Biodiversity Framework. Many countries, including Nepal, have also declared nationally determined contributions, NDCs. But are we on track to achieve all the targets in the document, or are these just symbolic steps?
Yeah, I think, as I am leading the climate change division, then definitely we are very much committed, and we are working to achieve those targets which are we set in the NDC. But at the same time, it is really hard if we do not secure the sufficient funding resources. That's why if you go through our NDC, we are giving the 2 types of targets. One is the conditional one, and another is unconditional one. Unconditional one, definitely we will achieve, because our resources, our capacity and our policy, all supporting factors, enabling environments we will create. But on the other hand, the conditional one is we are asking to the international community that Nepal is a landlocked, developing, mountainous country, and we are emitted very little carbon emissions, but we are affected most. That's why we need support from the international community to build our adaptation capacity. That's why most of the target, particularly energy target, the hydropower and other clean energy targets, we are expecting some support from the international community to achieve those targets. Because the reason behind this, Nepal, we do not have petroleum products and fossil fuels, our production we do not have, right? But on the other hand, we are importing those resources. We would like to promote the clean energy and replace the fossil fuels and contribute the global carbon emission reduction process. But on the other hand, clean energy will create the multiple jobs and opportunities to our communities. Even our target is to sell those energy to our neighbor countries and to support them as well.
The US government back in 2015 as well, and after the latest takeover by US President Donald Trump, withdrew from the Paris Agreement. Do you think steps like these influence the global effort towards building resilience towards climate change and our climate activities?
I think it's a very diplomatic one, but it is the internal matter of United States. If you ask to me, it's officially, but at the same time, United States is the major partner and pillar to the international process. And I'd hope that sooner or later the United States will be with the process. But many people and many communities, many countries, they are doubt how the future discourse debate and the pathway of the climate change and biodiversity will go, it's really unclear and questionable, and we have to wait sometimes.
You also mentioned just now about the funding gap that we have in implementing our NDC targets, achieving the NDC targets, in fact. And the global recent analysis suggests that we're spending trillions in global economy that is against nature, while our climate actions and climate activities are only worth around billions of dollars. So there's a huge gap in there. What do you think needs to change in how global finance is aligned to truly support conservation and climate goals?
Yeah, definitely. While we are talking about the climate finance or biodiversity finance, basically we discuss our negotiations based on the two parameters. The one is need base, how much amount of money is expected in the NDC and adaptation plan, including the biodiversity NVSAP, National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, those national policy documents. On the other hand, the science recommendation. Particularly in climate change, IPCC recommends how much money it needs and to implement those activities. On the other hand, IPBES is the recommendation for the biodiversity conservations. You are rightly pointed out that we need a huge amount of money to implement and to achieve those NDC targets and biodiversity targets, but the global communities are not in the position to support by providing funding resources. This is the big challenges. That's why our negotiation process, and we are discussing with the developed countries that if you see the last 200 years, most of the developed countries, they enjoy with the natural resources and they develop their infrastructure, and with the recent all the development facilities or commodities, whatever used by the developed countries, and they benefited a lot. But unfortunately, most of the developing countries are impacted from the climate change or biodiversity loss or even air pollution. That's why this is a part of justice. Then how do we developing countries, and particularly like-minded countries including Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, even India and China, how we unite each other and claim the climate finance, and also convince to the developed countries to pledge as much as money that we need. That's why we need a very collective and very collaborative approach. If you remember, last year we organized Sagarmatha Samvad, and it's a coincidence that I was the member secretary for the Sagarmatha Samvad as well, right? And our understanding and our conclusion is, unless and until if we do not promote a regional approach, particularly for South Asia, then we cannot achieve the sufficient resource funding. That's why global and the regional partnership approach we have to develop to secure sufficient funding resources. But if you are talking if global scale, then definitely all the developing countries, including least developed countries like Nepal and SIDS, small island developing countries, we have to discuss together, and we have to develop our science strong enough as we need, because without very sufficient information, sufficient science, then simply asking money for climate justice, no one is going to pledge. That's why we have to develop our capacity in terms of science, in terms of evidence, and then we have to claim. Otherwise, it's really impossible to get those huge resources that we need.
Mountain agenda has been on the table during COPs from countries like Nepal and small island nations as well. How is the progress been so far? Have we made strides when it comes to locking these resources that we're talking about?
Yes, definitely. This year we organized Sagarmatha Samvad. This year means last year. And the conclusion of the Sagarmatha Samvad was very much clear, and we are asking to the international community, if you save the mountains, then you can save the downstream communities. Or if you do not save or do not protect the mountains, then definitely the downstream communities will face the climate induced disasters, including landslides, floods and inundations and so on. mountain agenda is really important for us. We are the leading country, not only at the Mountain Everest, the whole country is a mountainous country. And this time in COP30, we discuss, we negotiate, and we coordinated all the like-minded countries and similar organizations, even experts, and even head of the institutions. And finally, the COP30 is decided to hold a global dialogue on mountain and climate change in coming June in Bonn, Germany, and Nepal is also preparing on it. We do have a very clear two agenda on this mountain part. One is we are asking the international community to recognize mountain is the separate agenda to the UNFCCC negotiation process, so that we can discuss a couple of issues under the mountain agenda: local communities, indigenous people, our culture, and then nature-based tourism, medicinal plants, forest, biodiversity, everything. So we can discuss over the mountain agenda. And then second, what we are asking to the international community is the lives and livelihoods of the mountainous communities is really very difficult, and the livelihood is, the hardship of the livelihood is really different and unique in the mountainous countries like Nepal, and therefore we need to discuss every year as an annual dialogue. Sometimes we do not like to exaggerate, unnecessarily exaggerate about the mountains, but what is reality in the ground, you have to understand. That part we are going to discuss and negotiate to the international communities, and hopefully in coming June we will discuss, but at the same time we have to convince to all international communities together, because it's the global phenomena. Sometimes the personally or individual country can put their agenda, but how and whether you can convince to the international communities or not, that is really important.
When you mention of the impacts of climate change, when you talk about livelihoods and culture, there is a clear dissection that we tend to evaluate more about the tangible impacts of climate change and not the intangible, maybe. Do you think the two are weighed equally?
Most of the climate change negotiator, and even including myself in the past, we discuss about half of the negotiations. So what I used to say, carbon emission, glacier melting, glove, and all the cascading effects in the downstreams. This is the one part. But on the other hand, most of the mountainous countries, and particularly Nepalese mountainous countries, they protect the forest and biodiversity, and they preserve the glacier in the top of the mountain, right? As a result, you are getting the fresh water, and huge amount of carbon is sink in the mountains, and they have huge contributions to protect the planet and regulate the climate. That's why they have to be compensated through mechanism of environmental services, or you can say simply the innovative financial mechanism. That's why what we are asking to the international communities is, if we do not support or compensate to the mountainous communities, otherwise they are not going to protect those forests and biodiversity, and many, not only many, billions of the people in the downstream, they are going to face the water security problem.
Now, as we talk about climate injustice, countries like Nepal are least polluter but are the most impacted. From a global justice perspective, what do you think must change in the international system to ensure effective conservation and climate action?
Yes, being Nepal is the less emitter and the most impacted country, is a part of climate justice. Then we have to ask to the international communities to support us or to build our capacity to cope those crises, or build the adaptation capacity. Even nowadays, what we are discussing about the loss and damage under the climate change framework, we need the additional finance, and we have to increase our access over the advanced technology, and we also need some capacity building activities, including those people who are living far from the city center and really impacted in the ground, including children, youth, even women, senior citizens. Even nowadays, if you go to the remote areas of Nepal, most of the senior citizens, they are the most affected. That's why we need a climate justice for them and to make their ability or capacity to cope those climate crises.
You've been part of many COPs on behalf of Nepal government. What is the mood in the room like? Do you think developed countries are committed to helping countries like ours?
Yeah, do you know, if you ask me very honestly, the present international geopolitics is rapidly and drastically changing, and then it's very difficult to predict what will be happen tomorrow. But I'm pretty confident that sooner or later the developed countries should be responsible, because they are the reason behind this crisis.
Ecosystems, species migrations and climate impacts transcend national borders, of course. In your observation, what global or regional cooperation mechanisms have been most promising, and where do you see gaps that need urgent attention?
I think there are two parts in your questions. If you are asking me about the biodiversity and the migration of the wild species, including wildlife, this is the one part. But on the other hand, because of the climate change and biodiversity loss, the human migrations is also taking place so rapidly. Even nowadays, people are migrating from rural area to city areas, and city areas to capital areas, and capital areas to international, right? That's why what we are asking to the policymaker or politician is develop the city planning and the climate change adaptation capacity of the local communities to provide maximum climate change adaptation activities to them. But migration is nowadays is so rapidly taking place. That's why it's very difficult to manage it, because other externalities also coming together. That's why we have to think more comprehensive and more integrated approach so that we can retain our youth to the rural area or city areas. But climate resilient city planning is the most to retain those communities. But at the same time, we have to seek for maximum and multiple employment and job opportunities to the youth. Otherwise, it's really hard to make the stable community and stable society.
Now, Nepal has seen a substantial and very encouraging forest cover rise, which is around 46% of its land. And we also maintain roughly 23% of the territory as protected areas. Do you see this conservation model particularly as an example that the world can learn from?
Yes, definitely we are in the right direction, but we have to departure now. Because in the beginning, if you see 1970s, our conservation modality was started through the wilderness theory. Means keep intact the ecosystems and do not damage or do not hamper anymore. But later on, what we realize is state-led one-side conservations or intact of the ecosystem is not enough unless local communities are integrated with the system. That we realize. That's why we introduce participatory approach, both in community forestry and then buffer zone based participatory approach. But from the last 30 to 40 years experience, we protected our forests so well, including with local communities and with a very good participation. Even the women and youth and every segment of the society we incorporated with the system. But unfortunately, we do not make a very clear plan what we will do next once the forest is protected or preserved, right? And in my expert view, this is the right time to welcome, to integrate the private sectors and harvest forest as a renewable natural resources and create more enabling environment to the private sector and process the maximum and multiple goods and services based on the forest and biodiversity enterprises and sell to the market, even not only the Nepalese one, even beyond international markets, and earn maximum foreign exchange and create job and opportunities. These are the good opportunities. That's why in summary, we are in the right directions, but this is the time to capitalize, to monetize our resources.
The prospect that you just mentioned about creating job opportunities and economic growth by utilizing our forest resources, do you think our existing policies facilitate that?
Yes, of course, our policies are supporting, but sometimes I am also observing that not enough as private sector is expecting. That's why simplify the process and very clear mechanism is expected by the private sector. I think it's a time to revisit our policy together with private sector and experts from the conservation sides. Ultimately, to make our country prosperous is our responsibility. That's why conservation or protection of the forest and development are not a blaming games, and it's a trade-off, and we have to sit together and find the win-win approach that both conservation and development can together parallelly and respect each other. This is the way what I'm thinking here.
Dr. Dhaka, lastly, what for you would be a successful global conservation and climate architecture look like by 2030, as we also are reaching a deadline for SDGs?
Yes, not only SDGs, even there are a couple of other targets also going to finish by 2030. Unfortunately, the international politics looks a little bit unstable at this moment. That's why it is really hard to say more quantitatively. But at the same time, the global communities with very, very advanced science, the human activities are becoming more efficient and more comfortable, because nowadays each and every information you can take from anywhere of the planet, of the world. That's why this is the opportunity. But at the same time, sincere and disciplined society is really looking very challengeable. This morning I read one paper that this is the time to redefine the international geopolitics. That's why coming 4 years really challenging for me as a policymaker of the developing countries. Just I have an option to be hopeful and do our best as much as possible to contribute the process. But it's really hard to achieve those targets by 2030.
Thank you so much for being on NTV World Insight.
Thank you very much.
Well, climate and conservation progress looks uneven at present. However, inspiring examples from around the world, including Nepal, we hope show that change is possible through collaboration. We hope today's conversation adds to the global discourse on turning ambition into tangible impact, ensuring that future generations inherit a planet that is resilient, thriving, and full of life. Thank you for staying with us here on NTV World Insight. Until next time.
Sangham Sharanam
The number of devotees collectively chanting, admiring and understanding these holy chants has reached 2 billion all across the world now. This implies that the population following Buddhism is increasing by the day. Buddhism rests upon the principle that one must be empathetic, kind, and exonerate towards all living beings. Love, brotherhood, and mutual harmony is the only way towards peace at present, when the whole world is entangled within warfare, fighting, and conflicts. Anyone seeking for peace can find it within themselves on internalizing the words and messages of Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha, also known as the Light of Asia, established himself as the preacher of Buddhism and enlightened the whole world with his message of peace, awareness, kindness, and wisdom. Buddha sacrificed his whole life urging for the need of truth, justice, and altruistic feeling within mankind. Gautama Buddha was born in Lumbini. It lies in the western part of Nepal in Rupandehi districts of the Lumbini zone. Lumbini has been protected under the World Cultural Heritage Site since 1997 AD. In the year 1896, the then senior officer of Palpa, Kharga Shamsher, and German expert Dr. A. Fuharer jointly carried out the work of archaeological excavation and investigation of Lumbini. After some period, archaeologists located the commemorative Ashok pillar erected by King Ashok of India during ancient period. With such facts coming in front, Lumbini caught attention of the people all around the world. Among the most significant heritages of Lumbini are Ashok Pillar and Mayadevi Temple. It is believed that Mayadevi gave birth to Siddhartha Gautam in 623 BC at the very spot where the temple is located at present. The then Mayadevi temple, however, remains only in the pictures and in imaginations. Renovation and repair works have already changed the original structure of the temple. Nevertheless, with the new structure, this temple has embraced a divine outlook in it. Not only the temple, but the whole Lumbini region is in the process of plan reconstruction and development. The visit of the then General Secretary of the United Nations Organization, U Thant, in the year 1967 brought together the notion of Lumbini Area Development Project. Under a master plan of the Japanese archaeologist Professor Kenzo Tange, the project was initiated in the year 1978. Lumbini Area Development Project Master Plan spreads in the area of 3 miles. Major attraction of this project is the Mayadevi temple premises. This holy garden has emerged as a peaceful, religious and spiritual hub as well as the center for tourists. This garden, located in the southern part of the temple, has assimilated a number of objects of archaeological and historical importance. The whole area appears magnificent, with a calm lake and beautiful parks. The temple displays numerous artifacts built in different centuries. These works shed light upon the historical importance of the temple. It is assumed that works of repair and renovation were carried out time and again since the reign of the Maurya dynasty till 8th century BC. The outer wall of the temple spreads 26 meters in the east-west and 21 meters in the north-south direction. During its excavation, 5 rooms in the east-west and 3 rooms in north-south direction were discovered. 3 of these rooms are square and the remaining 5 are rectangular in shape. There is an ancient Mayadevi idol showing the birth of Lord Buddha inside the temple. This idol is also known as the birth idol. The remains inside the temple date back from 5th century BC to the 7th century BC. Marker stone, alias birth stone, is placed safe above a Maurya period brick inside a deep room. This clearly depicts the exact place where Lord Buddha was delivered. This stone is around 25 steps north of the Holy Lake. Other evidential objects uncovered from excavations are kept as it is for devotees and other tourists to explore and to study. Ashoka pillar near to Mayadevi temple is believed to have been erected by King Ashoka in 249 BC during the 21st year of his enthronement. The Utkirna stone inscription engraved in this pillar in Brahmi script is a historical proof that Lord Gautama Buddha was born here. This is the most reliable historical and archaeological archive to learn about the birthplace of Lord Buddha as well as to explore Lumbini itself. A 5-stanza writing of 90 words written in Brahmi script, the first script that Buddha learned, is engraved in this pillar. Archaeologist Dr. A. Fuhara verified the writing in 1896 AD. This script attests huge and significant information about Lumbini. In the northern side of the Ashoka pillar lies Puskarini, or the holy pond. Legends say Mayadevi took the holy dip prior to the birth of Lord Buddha in this pond, and that baby Buddha too had his first bath. Architectural fragments of different size and shape collected from various excavations are protected in the southeast, northeast and western direction of the Mayadevi temple. On close examination of the temple, the tradition and technology of Maurya dynasty is revealed. Some monasteries are constructed using the remains of Lord Buddha, while some other incorporates the remains of his followers, and few others have been constructed in Buddha's reminiscence. These monasteries depict the then art, custom, religion and tradition. In the northern side of the Holy Garden, towards the center, lies the eternal peace flame, the peace bell and a 3-kilometer long and 16-meter wide canal. One can also view the World Peace Pagoda from here. The canal divides the whole area into two sections. Towards the eastern monasteries, 13 plots are designated to Thar Buddhist and 29 plots are allocated to Mahayani Buddhist in the western monasteries. In eastern region, various countries and Thar Buddhist organizations have constructed a number of monasteries following their native architectural texture. Myanmar, Sri Lankan, Indian, Cambodian and Thai government, including Nepalese, have constructed stupas and guest houses in these areas following the agreement with Lumbini Development Trust. Similarly, most of the western plots have been occupied with similar stupas, monasteries, guest houses and meditation centers constructed by various organizations or Government of Nepal, China, Vietnam, France, Japan, Austria, Bhutan and Mongolia, among other nations. In these monasteries, Buddhists perform their regular worship, enchantments and meditations according to their own customs. In the northern side of the new Lumbini village area is the 41.5 meter long and 49 meter cylindrical World Peace Pagoda. Fujiguru of Japan is said to have constructed similar pagodas in different locations all over the world during his journey of finding peace. World Peace Pagoda was designed by Japanese architect Dr. Minoru Ohuka. This pagoda came into operation since 1995. Built in traditional Japanese design, the upper part of this pagoda holds metallic artifacts exhibiting the birth of Lord Buddha. Lumbini Museum and Lumbini International Research Center are other important places to visit once one reaches Lumbini. These buildings, constructed in pagoda style, portray an architectural masterpiece in themselves. Inside Lumbini Museum, the archaeological remains found during the excavation of Lumbini area are preserved inside a large hall. One can easily gather information about the birthplace of Lord Buddha and the then contemporary society and culture exploring these heritages. Within the building designed by Professor Kenzi Tange himself, Lumbini International Research Center has been established. More than 3,500 research materials and texts on Buddha, Buddhism, history, philosophy, knowledge and teachings of Buddha can be found here. For the visitors' comfort, the center has provided the facility to read texts on different languages, including Sanskrit, Chinese, Japanese, Turkmen, Burmese, Thai, Nepali, and Nepal languages. There is an easy access of air as well as terrestrial transportation to reach Lumbini. The nearest airport to Lumbini is the Gautama Buddha Airport located in Bhairahava. One can also take roadways from different cities of Nepal to reach Lumbini easily. Situated in northwestern side of Kathmandu, Lumbini is 327 kilometers far from the capital. From the Indian border Sunauli, it lies in the distance of a mere 26 kilometers. Visitors can find ample bus, cabs, rickshaws and other transportation means to explore the whole area of Lumbini. Accommodation in Lumbini is again not a big deal. There are a number of hotels, lodges and restaurants ranging from expensive ones to medium and cheap motels in the market area. Within Lumbini area also, one can easily find guest houses, monasteries and stupas constructed to accommodate the visitors. The overall development works of Lumbini is spearheading on the basis of Lumbini Development Master Plan. Lumbini Development Fund is effortful to accomplish Lumbini Development Master Plan and to protect and preserve the overall Lumbini area. If you are planning to travel the birthplace of Lord Gautama Buddha, the holy Lumbini, we cordially invite you to explore all these spots of historical and archaeological importance, all related to Lord Buddha. You can travel around to see the ancient palace of King Suddhodana, father of Lord Buddha in Kapilvastu, and the debris of the earliest capital of Shakya kings, Tilaurakot, still preserved with high importance. This palace is located around 27 kilometers far from Lumbini. Lord Buddha, as the prince, spent 29 years of his life in this palace. Prince Siddhartha Gautama abandoned the royal livelihood in search of Mahanirvana, or enlightenment. In the year 1898 AD, Indian archaeologist P.C. Mukherjee, following the description of Chinese traveller Hu Yansanga, and unveiled the unknown facts about Tilaurakot after his 4 months-long research and excavation works. He mentioned that the Tilaurakot Palace stretched in the area of 1,700 feet north-south and 1,300 feet east-west direction, was surrounded by walls up to 8 to 12 feet. The main entrance gate had Buddha stupas and monasteries in both the sides. All these buildings are under excavation and protection at present. Mukherjee has also maintained that King Suddhodana ruled his kingdom from the same palace. Hence, no doubt remains on the fact that the present Tilaurakot was ancient Kapilvastu. Archaeological debris as well as ancient palace and east-west entrance constructed since 4th century BC to 2nd century BC can be observed vividly now as well. Another historical site of Lumbini is Kudan, also known as Lauri Kudan, around 28 kilometers southwest of Lumbini. Myths have it that Lord Gautama Buddha met his father King Suddhodana at this very spot for the first time on returning to his hometown Kapilvastu after attaining enlightenment. Others say Prajapati Gautami, Gautam Buddha's foster mother, handed him Kayas Vastra at this place. Some others also claim that at this very site, Gautama Buddha's son Rahul transformed into Buddhism and turned a saint. Inscription held the existence of 4 walls and 1 buried well at this place. However, only 3 walls can be seen at present. According to Dewala Mitra, on the southern side of this lies one rectangular wall, and another wall has a snake temple on the top of it. In the largest wall, located at northeast direction, idol of Lord Shiva and the remains of other idols can be seen at the top. "500 meters north of King Suddhodana's palace lay 2 stupas. Experts say these stupas are the graves of King Suddhodana and his queen Maya Devi. The largest stupa has the area of 52 feet and is 75 feet high, whereas the smaller one has the area of 26 feet. The largest stupa is said to be constructed in the 4th century BC and was reconstructed 3 times during the 2nd and the 1st century BC. Similarly, the smaller stupa is believed to have been constructed in between the 2nd and the 1st century BC. Devadaha, that lies in Bhawanipur of Rupandehi, is said to be the maternal home of Siddhartha Gautama. Inscriptions say that Siddhartha Gautam spent 7 years of his childhood in Devadaha. Also, it is believed that he, upon attaining enlightenment, paid a visit to Devadaha. Devadaha is also popularly regarded as the maternal home of Queen Maya Devi, Queen Prajapati, and Princess Yasodhara. 10 idols are established in a single row in the eastern wall. However, the structure of all other idols besides one of the sun god in the center is unclear. This place, serving as an open museum, still needs a rigorous research and study to explore more about Kolya Kingdom. Ramgram Monastery has been constructed in the sidelines of Jharahi River towards 4 kilometers southeast of Parasi of Nawalparasi district. 7 meters in height, this monastery was constructed, establishing 1 metallic remains of Lord Buddha in its base. This monastery is one among the 8 monasteries constructed worldwide with the metallic remains in their base. This monastery was constructed upon the order of the king of Ramgram. He was the 8th king to receive the remains of Lord Buddha. Buddhist religious texts say that King Ashoka was in his mission of collecting remains of Lord Buddha from all 8 monasteries to construct the 84,000 stupas. But he was not allowed to extort the remains of Lord Buddha from Ramgram Monastery. Around 9 kilometers north from Tilaurakot lies a pond named Sagarwa or Lambu Sagar. The pond has high significance with regard to its archaeological value. This pond is popularly recognized as the spot where Koshal rural king Naresh Birudhak killed the thousands of Shakyas at the same time during the 5th century BC. Inscriptions have it that this pond extends 1,059 feet towards the length and 225 feet towards the breadth and was discovered in 1895 AD. However, only few remains and a mark of the pond can be traced here at present. Gotihawa is renowned as the birthplace of Manushi Krakuchandra Buddha. It is also said that Krakuchandra Buddha met his father at the very place after attaining nirvana. Debris of Ashoka pillar, ancient well, bricks and other remains can be retrieved in the buried form from here. Major Wada and P.C. Mukherjee excavated Gotihawa in 1895 AD and mentioned that Krakuchandra Buddha was born here. Aurora Court is an ancient town situated 8 kilometers northeast of Taulihawa. Aurora Court is regarded as the location of Kanak Muni Buddha, but scientific research is necessary to trace further facts of this town. Meanwhile, manuscripts have it that Niglihawa, 7 kilometers far in the northern side of Taulihawa, is the birthplace of Kanak Muni Buddha. It is the same place where he got enlightenment. They also say that archaeologist Dr. Fuhara discovered inscriptions in ancient stupas at this very place. In the western side of Nigli Sagar, one of the Ashoka pillars can be seen in 2 pieces. In an inscription written in Brahmi script, Pali language, it is mentioned that King Ashoka erected this pillar when he reached Kapilvastu. When he reached Kapilvastu Lumbini during the 3rd century BC. King Ashoka was said to be in pilgrimage. These pillars, 15 feet long, have engraved figure of peacock in one of the pillar and another has Om Mani Padme Hum carved in it. This holy land of Buddha has a large number of places and objects of historical and archaeological importance. Many are still under the grave of Mother Earth, left to be extracted and excavated. After watching this documentary about Holy Land of Lord Buddha, you need not reach far to realize peace. Reaching this sacred birthplace of Lord Buddha will be enough to experience eternal peace. This holy land is the source of world peace. Lumbini is the center of serenity and harmony among all the people in the world. World Cultural Heritage Site and Shakya sage Gautama Buddha's birthplace is a precious gift for the whole world.
This is The World This Week, your weekly roundup of the latest international events and updates. And I am Bhavana Casey. In this edition, we bring you the stories sapping headlines around the world, from unprecedented geopolitical upheavals and mass protests to extreme weather across continents and remarkable cultural milestones. Let's begin with the dramatic developments in Venezuela and their global ramifications. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has pleaded not guilty to narcotics charges after a U.S. military operation in Caracas resulted in his capture and later transported to New York. Maduro is accused of overseeing a cocaine trafficking network with international drug cartels and faces 4 criminal counts. While in Caracas, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has been sworn in as interim president amid continued political turmoil and international debate over the legality and consequences of the U.S. operation.
Nicolas Maduro pleaded not guilty to narcotics charges after U.S. President Donald Trump's stunning capture of him rattled world leaders. Maduro's wife, Celia Flores, also pleaded not guilty during the dramatic 40-minute arraignment. The next court date was set for March 17. The 67-year-old and his wife were transferred to a New York jail after they were arrested by U.S. forces at their compound in Venezuela as part of a surprise overnight operation that also saw strikes on military bases. Maduro is accused of overseeing a cocaine trafficking network with international drug cartels and faces 4 criminal counts: narco-terrorism, cocaine importation conspiracy, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. He has long denied the allegations, saying they were a mask for imperialist designs on Venezuela's rich oil reserves. The capture, carried out in a surprise operation involving strikes and U.S. Special Forces around Caracas on 3rd of January, has triggered intense political turmoil in Venezuela, global debate over legality and sovereignty, and a leadership transition in Caracas. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez was sworn in as interim president under constitutional provisions, pledging to maintain continuity and navigate the crisis, even as international reactions remain sharply divided and calls for respect for international law mount. The appointment came just 2 days after Maduro's removal, as lawmakers moved to stabilize the country amid a growing political and humanitarian crisis. Venezuela's interim president, Rodriguez, has said her country is not subjugated, despite Trump's claim to be in charge after removing her predecessor, Maduro. Her comments contradicted earlier remarks by Trump, who said Rodriguez had been sworn in as president and was willing to do what they think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Trump also said the U.S. would be running Venezuela.
Don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
We're in charge.
The latest political upheaval also marks a new and uncertain chapter in Venezuelan politics, with questions remaining about the country's governance, economic stability, and international relations.
Leaders around the world have responded with a mix of condemnation and support to the U.S. capture of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. UN Chief Guterres says he is deeply alarmed by the U.S. military strikes in Venezuela and warned it could set a dangerous precedent under the international law. The U.S. operation has drawn widespread international attention, with UN ambassadors and foreign governments expressing concern over the legality and potential consequences of Maduro's capture. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged the international community to respect the political independence of states following the recent U.S. operation in Venezuela that led to the capture of President Maduro. Speaking at the UN Security Council, Under Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo read a statement on behalf of Guterres, emphasizing that the UN calls for the respect of states' political independence and sovereignty in response to actions that could escalate tensions.
In situations as confused as complex as the one we now face, it is important to stick to principles. Respect for the UN Charter and all other applicable legal frameworks to safeguard peace and security. Respect for the principles of sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity of states. The prohibition of the threat or use of force. The power of the law must prevail. International law contains tools to address issues such as illicit traffic in narcotics, disputes about resources, and human rights concerns. This is the route we need to take.
Security Council members continue to monitor the situation, with discussions expected to focus on regional stability, humanitarian concerns, and potential diplomatic responses. Whereas the United States defended its controversial operation in Venezuela at a UN Security Council meeting, with Ambassador Mike Waltz asserting President Trump had given diplomacy a chance before resorting to force. He said the operation was preceded by multiple off-ramps offered to Maduro to avoid confrontation.
The United States will not waver in our actions to protect Americans from the scourge of narco-terrorism and seeks peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. I thank you, Mr. President. You can't turn Venezuela into the operating hub for Iran, for Hezbollah, for gangs, for Cuban intelligence agents, and other malign actors that control that country. You cannot continue to have the largest energy reserves in the world under the control of adversaries of the United States, under the control of illegitimate leaders, and not benefiting the people of Venezuela, and stolen by a handful of oligarchs inside of Venezuela.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said his government will shed no tears for the end of Maduro's regime. Neighboring Latin American countries, including Colombia, Cuba, and Brazil, have condemned the actions, as did Venezuela's long-term allies Russia and China. China said it was deeply shocked and strongly condemns the use of force against a sovereign country and its president. The capture of Maduro evokes previous eras when other leaders, such as Panama's former military leader Manuel Noriega and former Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, were seized by the US. But Saturday's US operation is unlike anything seen before. When US forces captured Panama's leader Manuel Noriega exactly 35 years ago, it was following a short war between the two countries. Later in 2003, Iraqi President Saddam Hussein was captured by US forces 9 months after the US-led invasion and occupation of Iraq started based on false intelligence of Baghdad possessing weapons of mass destruction. Like Noriega, Saddam had for years been a key Washington ally in his case during the years of the Iraq-Iran war in the 1980s that killed 1 million people. Venezuela, in the meantime, has announced a state of national emergency and denounces the military aggression. 63-year-old Maduro has served as the president of Venezuela from 2013. His administration oversaw an economic collapse characterized by hyperinflation and chronic shortages. His rule became best known for allegedly rigged elections, food shortages, and rights abuses, including harsh crackdowns on protests in 2014 and 2017. His government was also subject to aggressive sanctions by the US and other powers.
Huge protests have erupted across Iran, with demonstrators marching in Tehran and other cities in the largest anti-clerical demonstrations in years. According to the US-based human rights activist news agency, at least 34 protesters, including 5 children and 8 security personnel, have been killed and more than 2,200 people arrested during these protests.
Protesters could be heard in the footage calling for the overthrow of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and the return of Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of late former Shah, who had urged his supporters to take to the streets. The protests came not long after Reza Pahlavi, whose father was overthrown by the 1979 Islamic Revolution and lives in Washington, D.C., had called on Iranians to take to the streets and as a united front. The unrest has been sparked by anger over the collapse of the Iranian currency and has spread to more than 100 cities and towns across all 31 of Iran's provinces, according to human rights groups. The US-based human rights activist news agency has said at least 34 protesters, 5 of them children, and 8 security personnel have been killed, and that 2,270 other protesters have been arrested. Iran's state media, meanwhile, has downplayed the scale of the unrest. In some cases, they denied protests had taken place altogether, posting videos of empty streets. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian earlier called on security forces to exercise utmost restraint when handling peaceful protests. Khamenei, who has ultimate power in Iran, said on Saturday that authorities should speak with the protesters, but that rioters should be put in their place. The protests began on 28 December when shopkeepers took to the streets of Tehran to express their anger at another sharp fall in the value of Iranian currency, the rial, against the US dollar on the open market. The rial has sunk to a record low over the past year, and inflation has soared to 40%, as sanctions over Iran's nuclear program squeeze an economy also weakened by government mismanagement and corruption. The protests have been the most widespread since an uprising in 2022 sparked by the death in custody of Mahsa Amini, a young Kurdish woman who was detained by morality police for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly.
US President Donald Trump has renewed his provocative push to annex Greenland, asserting the strategically located Arctic territory is essential for the US national security. Trump's such statement comes despite Denmark's Prime Minister urging him to stop the threats over the island's future. Donald Trump has again proposed annexing Greenland after Denmark's leader urged him to stop the threats over the island. Speaking to reporters, the US president said US needs Greenland from the standpoint of national security.
We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it.
Trump has repeatedly raised the prospect of semi-autonomous Danish territory becoming an annexed part of the US, citing its strategic location for defense purposes and mineral wealth. The Trump administration's recent move to appoint a special envoy to Greenland has also prompted anger in Denmark. The back and forth over the future of Greenland comes in the wake of a major military operation against Venezuela on Saturday, seizing its president Nicolas Maduro and his wife and removing them to New York. Greenland, which has a population of 57,000 people, has had extensive self-government since 1979, though defense and foreign policy remain in Danish hands. While most Greenlanders favor eventual independence from Denmark, opinion polls show overwhelming opposition to becoming the part of the US. A severe cold snap and winter storms have swept across Europe, with the UK and France among the hardest hit, causing at least 6 deaths. Heavy snowfall also has forced school and transport closures, flight cancellations and icy roads as the Arctic outbreak continues to affect the northern Europe.
A powerful cold snap and winter storm dubbed Storm Goretti has gripped much of Europe, bringing heavy snow, fierce winds, freezing temperatures and widespread disruption across the UK, France and other countries. Storm Goretti has prompted rare red and amber weather warnings in parts of the UK, with winds reaching up to 99 miles per hour, snow accumulations of up to 30 centimeters and dangerous conditions forcing school closures and major travel cancellations. Hundreds of thousands of homes have lost power in France and Britain as authorities urge people to stay off the roads and prepare for treacherous conditions. Across Western Europe, airports, rail networks and roadways have been severely disrupted by ice and snow, with hundreds of flights cancelled and train services running on restricted schedules. Major transport hubs, including regional UK airports, have faced delays, while icy roads and fallen trees have contributed to accidents and travel chaos. Harsh winter conditions continue to affect daily life, and emergency services remain stretched. Meteorological agencies warn that the Arctic outbreak driving the cold spell may persist in the coming days, prolonging hazardous conditions and sustaining travel disruption across the continent.
While much of Europe is battling a bitter cold snap, the southern hemisphere is confronting the opposite extreme. A scorching heat wave in Australia is pushing temperatures above the 40 degrees Celsius and sparking catastrophic bushfire conditions that threaten human settlements while forcing the evacuations.
A severe heat wave is scorching southeastern Australia, with temperatures regularly climbing above 40 degrees Celsius and triggering catastrophic bushfire conditions that are threatening towns, destroying homes, and forcing mass evacuations. Fire authorities have declared catastrophic fire danger ratings the highest possible as dozens of out-of-control blazes burn across Victoria and neighbouring states, driven by extreme heat, strong winds, and dry lightning. In some of the most dangerous fire weather since the devastating 2019-2022 Black Summer season. Dozens of rural communities have been urged to evacuate immediately, with major highways closed and thousands of homes without power, while emergency services warn that any fires igniting under the current conditions could spread rapidly and become uncontrollable. Emergency services have issued total fire bans, school closures, and evacuation alerts, urging residents to leave high-risk areas immediately and seek shelter, while strong wind gusts are expected to complicate containment efforts and keep the region on edge through the peak of the heat wave. Climate scientists also point to long-term trends of rising temperatures and more frequent, intense heat waves linked to climate change, which are increasing the length and severity of Australia's fire seasons and making extreme conditions more likely. Fire authorities have declared catastrophic fire danger ratings, the highest possible, as dozens of out-of-control blazes burn across Victoria and neighbouring states, driven by extreme heat, strong winds and dry lightning, in some of the most dangerous fire weather since the devastating 2019-2020 Black Summer season.
China's People's Liberation Army conducted New Year combat-oriented training involving the Army, Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force and Armed Police to strengthen battlefield readiness. The exercises featured integrated joint drills, air and naval defense operations and realistic combat scenarios designed to sharpen troops' adaptability and emergency response capabilities. China's People's Liberation Army PLA has kicked off New Year military training across all units, with forces from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force and Armed Police conducting intensive combat-oriented exercises to boost battlefield readiness. On the first training day, a brigade of the Army's 79th Group conducted integrated combat-oriented training at an outdoor training ground. The troops continuously executed over 10 individual and squad training subjects from the training outline, focusing on enhancing their battlefield adaptability and response capabilities. Naval forces were also active. They also conducted fleet air defense exercises in coordination with naval aviation, testing the troops' ability to transition from training to combat. The Air Force, involving multiple branches such as aviation, surface-to-air missile and radar troops, conducted joint training exercises with multiple aircraft types in realistic battlefield ambience to hone their combat skills. By fully integrating real combat scenarios and setting up complex emergency situations, the training aimed to enhance the officers' and soldiers' emergency response capabilities in extreme ambience. Amid the ruins of war-damaged buildings in Gaza City, the Faculty of Medicine has graduated 230 students for the first time in more than 2 years, holding a defiant Phoenix Badge ceremony that symbolized resilience, rebirth and commitment to serving a community scarred by conflict. The Faculty of Medicine in the Gaza Strip held a graduation ceremony for 230 male and female students following an interruption of more than 2 years caused by the aggression on the Strip. Titled the Phoenix Badge, the ceremony took place at the Al-Sifa Medical Complex in Gaza City. Held amid the rubble of departments destroyed by the occupation's machinery during the war, the event served as a message of defiance and resilience from the organizers. Graduates put on their gowns among the damaged buildings, symbolizing rebirth from devastation. Families attended the ceremony with a mix of pride and sorrow, reflecting the heavy toll of the conflict. Speeches emphasized the ethical duty of young doctors to serve their community in the time of crisis. Despite limited resources and ongoing challenges, the graduates promised to continue their medical mission. Thousands of worshippers and visitors gathered in Benin's scared Kapase forest to mark the start of Vodun Days. The celebration is a 3-day annual event honoring Benin's spiritual and cultural heritage rooted in the ancient animist religion of Vodun.
Thousands of worshippers and visitors gathered in Benin's sacred Kapase forest to mark the start of Vodun Days. The celebration, a 3-day annual event honoring Benin's spiritual and cultural heritage rooted in the ancient animist religion of Vodun. Beninese President Patrice Talon attended ceremonies in the sacred Kapase forest in Ouida on the first day of the Vodun Day celebrations, a 3-day annual event honoring Benin's spiritual and cultural heritage. Vodun is an animist religion rooted in the forces of nature and the connection with ancestors. The event evolved from the National Vodun Festival, first celebrated officially in 1993 and was rebranded as Vodun Days to broaden its scope and international appeal while showcasing the richness of Vodun arts, culture and spirituality to a global audience. Held over several days, it features ritual processions, traditional dances, open-air concerts, cultural exhibitions, local crafts and food stalls. Vodun itself is deeply intertwined with Benin's cultural heritage.
Recognized as an official religion in the country since 1996, it has influenced spiritual practices throughout the African diaspora, including Haitian Vodou and Louisiana Voodoo, as enslaved people carried their beliefs across the Atlantic during the slave trade.
Great white sharks in the Mediterranean are at risk of disappearing, researchers warn, as illegal fishing and trade continue to drive the critically endangered species towards extinction despite international protections. Great white sharks in the Mediterranean Sea are in danger of disappearing, with illegal fishing contributing to their decline. This is according to research by US scientists working in partnership with UK charity Blue Marine Foundation. They say some of the threatened species, including great white sharks, are being sold in North African fish markets. Great whites are one of more than 20 Mediterranean shark species protected under international law, meaning it is illegal to fish for them or to sell them. By monitoring fishing ports on the Mediterranean coast of North Africa, however, researchers discovered that at least 40 great white sharks have been killed there in 2025 alone. The Mediterranean white shark population is now classified as critically endangered by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. The EU and 23 nations around the Mediterranean have signed an agreement which states that those species cannot be retained on board, transshipped, landed, transferred, sold or displayed or offered for sale. Two humanoid robots squared off in a high-tech bout at the Ultimate Fighting Robot event on the sidelines of the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, exchanging stumbles, swings and kicks before an enthusiastic crowd at the BattleBots arena.
At the Consumer Electronics Show CES in Las Vegas, humanoid robots took center stage in a futuristic fighting spectacle as two child-sized machines squared off in the Ultimate Fighting Robots UFB competition at the BattleBots arena. Unlike traditional robot combat events featuring wheeled or weaponized machines, the UFB match showcased bipedal robots mirroring the movements of human pilots who used cameras and motion-sensing controllers to send punches, kicks, and blocks in real time, with a human referee addressing the machines much like flesh and blood fighters. Spectators, many of them CES attendees, cheered and laughed as the humanoids stumbled, traded blows and demonstrated advances in mobility and balance, part entertainment, part a research platform for embodied AI. Organizers and competitors alike touted the event as the sport of the future, hoping it will attract fans by blending the thrill of combat with cutting-edge robotics and human-machine interaction, and serve as a test bed for technologies that could eventually be used in disaster response or real-world robotics applications.
Gogol Cave in Turkey's Zonguldak province, the country's 10th largest, attracts visitors with its stunning features and ancient coral fossils. Carefully designed paths and viewing terraces allow safe exploration while preserving the cave's geological heritage. Gogol Cave, Turkey's geological heritage, draws attention with its natural wonders. Located in the northern province of Zonguldak, Gogol Cave continues to fascinate visitors with its remarkable natural formations and geological significance. Ranked as the 10th largest cave in Turkey, the cave stretches a total of 3,350 meters, including its branches, offering a unique journey into a world shaped over millions of years. The cave stands out as one of the most important elements of the region's geological heritage. At every step, visitors encounter different formations and ancient coral fossils that date back millions of years. The cave has become a major attraction for both domestic and international visitors. Carefully designed walking paths, glass ridges, and viewing terraces allow guests to explore the cave comfortably while preserving its natural structure. South Africa's Cape Town hosted the annual Cape Minstrels Parade, where troops in bright satin costumes danced through the city to brass band music carrying traditional umbrellas and walking sticks. The event, rooted in 19th century slave and freed communities' cultural expressions, remains a major celebration of local heritage, attracting large crowds and boosting tourism. Thousands of spectators lined the streets of South Africa's Cape Town on Monday to watch the city's annual Cape, a long-standing cultural event rooted in the city's history of slavery. Large troops of minstrels marched through the city center wearing bright satin costumes, dancing to the accompaniment of brass bands. Many performers carried umbrellas and walking sticks, which are traditional elements of the parade. The event, also known as the Kaapse Club, tracks its origins to the 19th century when enslaved and freed people in Cape Town used music and performance as a form of cultural expression. Today, the parade remains a significant celebration for the city's communities. City authorities say security and traffic measures were put in place along the parade route to ensure the safety of performers and spectators. The parade is held annually during the New Year period and continues to attract large crowds of local residents and visitors, contributing to Cape Town's cultural calendar and tourism appeal. Well, that was a spectacular celebration of culture, unity and heritage, and this brings us to the end of this episode of The World This Week. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did bringing it to you. We shall see you again next time with a new episode. Do follow us on our website www.nepaltelevision.com and our social media handles as well as our YouTube channel. Till then, take care and bye-bye.
Only after 6 decades of the institutional development of the now popular game of cricket did Nepal get the opportunity to play in the World Cup. Although cricket was introduced in Nepal during the Rana regime, the sport was confined to a limited number of people, namely the elite. It all started with equipment brought by students returning from their studies in Britain and India. Although Cricket Association of Nepal (CAN) was established in 1947, cricket remained centered among a few affluent individuals and in limited tournaments for a long time. Starting with the Bishnu Trophy in 1948, tournaments were limited to competitions like the Madan Memorial Seed, Jugal Kishore Trophy, Rammani Trophy and later the Jai Trophy. Even as the sport expanded outside Kathmandu Valley, it took decades for cricket to develop at the grassroots level. After the International Cricket Council (ICC) granted Nepal affiliate membership in 1988, Nepali cricket embarked on its international journey. The rule of mandatory participation in tournaments by the ICC and the Asian Cricket Council (ACC) opened doors to international competition for Nepal. After participating in the Under-19 Asian tournament in Hong Kong in 1996, Nepal has not looked back. Winning titles at the Asian and global levels, Nepali cricket team continues its journey towards the pinnacle of world cricket.
Goes down the ground because he was given that line outside off stump, so the first boundary of the contest, a handsome one.
Initially confined to Tulikhel in Kathmandu, many international tournaments were hosted in Nepal after an international standard ground was built in Kirtipur. Nepal has also shown its proactiveness in differently abled cricket tournaments like the T20 World Cup for the blind in 2012 and the Asian Cricket Tournament for the deaf. Nepali women's national cricket team has also achieved remarkable success in a short period of time. The latest addition in Nepali cricket is the floodlit Tribhuvan University Cricket Stadium, and the Nepal Premier League that has provided opportunity for Nepali players to rub shoulders with world-class players. "45 minutes flight across 214 kilometers, we landed at the Simikot airport. It was a great relief to land in Simikot for us, who had spent few days in hot Nepalganj. The cool breeze welcomed us to our great expectations. According to locals, Simikot got its name with the combination of Simi and Kot. Indeed, it is the combination of Sim meaning wetland and Kot meaning green meadow. Simikot is a major point for pilgrims traveling to Mount Kailas and Mansarovar in Tibet via Hilsa. This is the easiest way to the Mansarovar, and thus many Indian pilgrims are seen here.
मेन त यो हुम्ला सिमीकोट चाहिँ तपाईको अब भनौं न अब कैलाश मानसरोवरकै गेटवे भएकोले एउटा यहाँ आउने भयो। अब हामीले पनि अब भनौं न तपाईको हुम्ला सिमीकोट चाहिँ अब तपाईको यो सदरमुकाम हो, मेन ल्यान्डिङ पोइन्ट हो हैन। अब यहाँबाट तपाईको पर्यटकहरुलाई जस्तै हाम्रो यहाँ रलिङ गुम्बाहरु छ, खारबुनाथ मन्दिरहरु छ हैन। अब जस्तै यहाँ तपाईको एकदम के भन्छ प्राकृतिक सुन्दरताहरु हेर्ने ठाउँहरु थुप्रै छ। किनभने हामीले त्यो ठाउँहरुलाई चाहिँ फोकस गर्न नसकेर बाहिर ल्याउन नसकेर मात्र हो। अब ल्याउन सक्यो भने पर्यटनहरु आवश्यक नै बढी मात्रामा बढ्छ भन्ने आशा छ।
We arrived Simikot with a throng of travelers to Humla, comprising some domestic and foreign tourists. Soon our team became a cozy group of travelers. We traveled together to Limi of Namkha, among the 7 rural municipalities of the district: Simikot, Namkha, Kharpunath, Changkheli, Sarkegad, Adnacholi and Tanjakot. The jeep ride in the graveled road is some kind of experience in this majestic terrain. However, we were disturbed by the landslides at various places of the rural road and left to travel on foot. We arrived at Chaudan Foya after a few hours of walk, but our overnight stay was still a few hours trek to Dharapuri. We stopped at many places on our way just to capture the natural beauty of the place and feel the magic in the air. These hills and the spontaneous Karnali river kept inspiring us. And on the way we see many stories of hope, determination and struggle of the locals. It was almost dusk, but our destination was still at some distance. So we increased our pace
along with the local children accompanying us. We are thankful to these kids, without whom we would not have been able to know some of the very well-known places on the way. Almost 8:30 in the evening, we were still struggling to find the house where we were supposed to spend the night. Now our team was no more intact, as all had their own arrangements in small groups. We had no option but to find a place to rest for the night. We were overwhelmed by the humility and warmth of the local people. They offered a bunch of unknown travelers food and accommodation with open heart. This reminded us of the slogan, "Guest is God," in real terms. Not the most affluent of the societies, but very welcoming at heart. In need, but have the humility. Poverty-ridden, but full of humanity. We salute the rural folks who mess around the year in this inhospitable terrain for survival. The next morning, we all get together. Our next destination was Kermi. The whistling sound of Karali flowing down somewhere, the rocky hills and the small trails like ropes attached in these hills. Risky and dangerous. Not the best of conditions for trekking, but that's where the thrill is. That's where the adventure is. The waterfalls and ponds on the way relieve us from our fatigue instantly. Chachara is one of the biggest waterfalls in this place. The soothing touch of the crystal clear water of the fall is refreshing. Our lunch was at Dade Kermi, where small tents were set up by the locals to serve food and some rest for travelers. The Chinese stoves used here are smokeless and must have eased the life of the rural folks to a larger extent. We had seen these types of stoves in Dharapuri as well. Before starting another long day of trek after lunch, we had a little rest here. Our journey to Limi is still a long way to finish. We also did not get any chance of hitchhiking, as no vehicle was plying on the road due to landslide obstructions. Our journey was getting arduous by the hour, but we did not miss the chance to enjoy the natural wonder of the region. Agriculture and cattle are the main profession of the people here. People raise yaks in this rugged terrain, though they have to migrate in winter to find better grazing land locally called kharka for their prized possessions. We found herds of yaks at different places on the way. We even stopped at one of these grazing camps for a cup of tea. This place is called Lashin. The tea served here is special, with ghee and salt added for extra energy in the cold temperature. No wonder some of us were enjoying this tea for the first time. To our great relief, we got the news that a goods-laden truck was heading towards Limi from Tibet of China. However, we still had some distance to cover to catch the truck. We all wanted to rush with the hope to reach there in time to get a lift. At the moment, we are at Chanso, where there is not enough place for our jumbo team to spend the night. Finally, we decided to spend the night in Chanso itself, as the way ahead was more difficult and riskier. Two families had set up their yak camps here and living in 2 tents. Our big team had to divide and accommodate in these 2 tents for the night. We squeezed in for the night anyhow. It's a beautiful morning with bright blue sky, surrounded by tall hills, waterfalls and the whistling Karnali. It was nothing less than a piece of heaven on earth. We mingled with the locals for some times.
गाह्रै छ पानी पनि यहाँ समस्या छ दाउरा पनि समस्या छ यहाँ गाह्रै छ गाह्रो त यस पुल पनि समस्या छ यहाँ नराम्रो ठाउँमा बसेको छ यहाँ चिसो ठाउँमा यस्तो समस्या छ यहाँ हामीसँग धेरै चुनौतीहरू पनि छ जस्तै एक्सेसको कुरा गर्ने हो भने रोड राम्रो बनिसकेको छैन अनि त्यसपछि तपाईको सञ्चारहरू छैन बाटोमा टी शपहरू छैन त्यसपछि त्यही अनुसार जस्तै टुरिज्म व्यवसायको लागि चाहिएको तपाईको के भन्छ यो के रे ह्युमन रिसोर्सहरू पनि राम्रोसँग दक्ष छैन हैन
We had to climb up to the altitude of 4,800 meters to reach Limi. We decided to travel on horses as we were too tired to walk now. We managed horses for our team and set out on our way. We stopped at a beautiful natural pond, locally known as Selima. No one has dared to measure the depth of this pond till date. No one is aware of the mathematics of this ancient natural lake. We also moved ahead with the enthusiasm as to why. No one knows it. 2 hours on the horseback, we arrive at Nyalul Langna at an altitude of 4,800 meters above sea level. Surrounded by white mountains and hills, we found 2 Chinese trucks ready to leave for Limi. It took some effort to climb onto these huge carriers. Around 100 people had boarded on each truck. The local people were also waiting for the truck to depart like we were. The gravelled road and overloaded trucks. The ride was not very comfortable, but we did not have much option either to move ahead. After around 5 hours rough ride, we arrived at Halji village of Limi. Three villages, Tili, Halji and Jang, were collectively called Limi. It was almost evening by the time we reached Halji. The sight of Karnali snaking between the hills, symmetrical houses, green meadows, and the hearty welcome of the locals relieved of our fatigue. Cattle, farming and trade were the main profession of the Denizens of Halji. Yak, growing uwa, a special grain used in making liquor, and traveling to and from Taklakut via Hilsa for trade is part of their life for the locals. Despite the beauty of this magical land, it's far away from tourism. Hardly 50 tourists from outside set their foot on this area every year. The millennium-old Halji monastery, built by Locha Warinche Samo, is the pride of this place. Monk Samo had built this monastery as the last of his 108 structures around the world. Monk Samo is believed to have died while constructing this monastery. The ancient heritage, at the risk of landslide, awaits preservation and promotion.
दायाँको त्यहाँ पहिरोको डर छ यहाँ हैन त्यहाँ बायाँको त्यही डोरीको दुख छ त्यही ढुङ्गाको धेरै दुख छ बिचमा खानु पाउनको पेटको दुख छ यहाँ धेरै आवश्यक छ के छ यहाँ गुम्बा विधानमा त्यही सबै ती पुरानो लिङ्ग मूर्तिकुटी माटोमा लिगेर ती बिग्री जान्छ.
We had the opportunity to see the local culture and lifestyle during our trek in Limi. What impressed us the most was the dress, including local bakhu, sonba, chino and quinoa bread. Mount Kailas and the Mansarovar in China are clearly visible from Lapcha of Limi. 7 to 8 hours of truck ride from Halji, we can reach there. We were very much eager to see the Mansarovar and Mount Kailas, so we went to Limi. But to our bad luck, the weather did not help us. We waited for some time for the weather to clear, but there was no sign whatsoever, and we returned disappointed. Had the weather been kind, this was the sight we would have been able to see. Our journey to Limi thus ended on a sad note. We head back to Simikot and Nepalganj and finally to Kathmandu. Back in Kathmandu, every scene and sight we saw on the way is coming back in flashback. Being in this place itself is a treat to the eyes and mind. You forget all the fatigue and physical pain once you reach in this oasis. Undoubtedly, Humla, bordering Mugu, Bajura, Bazan and China towards the north, is a piece of heaven on earth.
Intermittent playing hide-and-seek with the folk, enchanting one's heart with the sight of fully bloomed rhododendrons, and rejoicing in the lap of nature with the chirping of the birds. When you set foot in Sandakpur, you experience a wonderful feeling of heavenly bliss right here on earth. Due to the ever-changing weather and the snow-white mountains visible right in front of your eyes, Sandakpur constantly draws everyone's heart towards it. As a habitat for numerous species of birds and endangered wildlife, Sandakpur always leaves an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all. Situated at an altitude of 3,636 meters above the sea level, Sandakpur is located at Ward 2 and 4 of Sandakpur Rural Municipality in Nepal's eastern Ilam district. Embracing the mountains of Nepal, India and Bhutan, Sandakpur is the only place in South Asia where one can observe the Himalayas of all three countries. While enjoying the Himalayan settlements, one can observe the sunrise and sunset from Sandakpur. It is the only place in Nepal from where over 60 mountain peaks, including the Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Pathivara and Kumbhakarna, can be seen from one spot. Being the source of the holy Mai River, one of the 4 major rivers in Ilam, Sandakpur is also revered from a religious standpoint, attracting pilgrims from Sandakpur Ridge. The settlements of Ilam, Jhapa and West Bengal of India seem so close that it feels like you could hold them in the palm of your hand. The crimson glow of the sun rising from the Bay of Bengal in the morning, glittering upon the mountains. The joy of witnessing this form such a height is majestic. That is why in winter for the snow and during the monsoon for the rain, the number of visitors from both home and abroad to Sandakpur is on the rise. Among the different species of rhododendrons found in Nepal, 36 can be spotted just along the Sandakpur trek. The rhododendrons blooming all over the forest captivate every heart. With the chirping of birds, the cliffside honeybees, and the opportunity to study endangered species like the red panda, vultures, while enjoying nature, Sandakpur journey has captivated trekkers from around the world. Every year, more than 150,000 tourists from India, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Europe visit Sandakpur. Known as the Bird's Eye Place, Sandakpur was declared a one province, one cultural village by Nepal government in 2018. However, the place still awaits infrastructures like drinking water, electricity and proper trekking trails. Sandakpur can be reached after a 42-kilometer ride from the Ilam headquarters via Mai Pokhari and Kalu Pokhari. Another route to Sandakpur is from Ilam Bazar via Biblate, Sulubung, Mabu and Kalu Pokhari. When trekking to Sandakpur, the highest point of the Mahabharata range, the joy of staying in the homestays and hotels along the way while savoring local cuisine is immeasurable. While forging a connection with the Himalayan settlements, enjoying herbs and local produce, and playing in the snow in winter and the rain during the monsoon, you must visit Sandakpur at least once in your life.
Nepal to enforce election code of conduct from January 17 launches election police recruitment process. Rift in Nepali Congress deepens as disgruntled faction intensifies preparations for special convention. Establishment faction urged delegates to refrain. Nepal's economy shows resilience with the rising reserves and remittances, but poverty persists with Kathmandu leading in absolute numbers below the poverty. 5 cameras installed for ongoing tiger census in Nepal's Chitwan National Park lost. 2 other cameras damaged by elephant. Venezuela's interim president rejects U.S. control claims following Maduro's capture, adds Venezuela not subjugated by the U.S. And Nepal loses to Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held in Kathmandu. Good evening, I am Iprulagi Singlama. This is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now, the news in details. The Election Commission EC of Nepal is set to bring the election code of conduct into force starting January 17 ahead of the upcoming House of Representatives HOR election scheduled for March 5. Officiating Chief Election Commissioner Ram Prasad Bhandari, along with other EC commissioners and senior officials, briefed Prime Minister Sushila Karki on election management and preparations during a meeting held this afternoon. The discussion focused on ensuring smooth and transparent elections, as well as the implementation of the Code of Conduct. The Election Code of Conduct outlines the rules and guidelines that political parties, candidates and government officials must follow during the election period, aiming to maintain fairness, transparency and integrity in the electoral process. The EC has urged all stakeholders to comply with the code to ensure a free and fair election. This and overall preparations of the Election Commission and concerned, we will bring you on our cover story later. Now, Nepali Congress, the country's oldest political party, long recognized for leading the nation through political crises, is now embroiled in its own internal turmoil. The party is scheduled to hold its 15th regular general convention from 11 to 14 April. However, over 50% of convention delegates are demanding an immediate special convention, highlighting deep divisions within the party. The dispute centers on whether to maintain the status quo or elect younger leadership to meet the demands of a changing political landscape. The party's establishment insists that the regular convention proceed as planned, while the faction led by senior leaders is pushing forward with preparations for the special convention. However, during Thursday's discussions led by the establishment faction, including the 2 general secretaries, neither group showed any sign of compromising of their positions. As a result, the press conference that acting President Khadka was scheduled to hold on Friday afternoon to address the special convention supporters could not take place. Meanwhile, at the convention venue in Birkuti Mandap, party workers and organizers are setting up the venue, arranging logistics for delegates and coordinating security measures to ensure the smooth conduct of the event. Nepal's foreign exchange reserves, current account and balance of payments showed strong improvement in the first 5 months of fiscal year 2082-83 BS, driven by a sharp rise in remittance inflows. The Nepal Rashtra Bank reports that gross reserves reached 3.2 trillion Nepali rupees, or around $22.13 billion, enough to cover 18.2 months of imports. The current account surplus stood at $2.48 billion and the balance of payments at $2.91 billion. Remittances rose 35.6% to nearly $6 billion, while exports increased 58.2% to $0.8 billion and imports grew 15.8% in fact to USD 5.3 billion, despite easing inflation at 1.63%. The central bank noted that revenue collection, government spending and credit growth remain weak. Now, more on this on our issue of the day later in the program. Moving on, 5 cameras installed for the ongoing tiger census in Chitwan National Park have gone missing, while 2 others were damaged by an elephant, authorities report. The loss was discovered as park officials prepared to retrieve the cameras after completing the first phase of the census. The census, which began on December 16 last year, covers around 286 grids across Chitwan and Parsa National Parks, treated as a single block. The first cluster included Tribeni, Amaltari, Kasara and Barandabar areas. The second cluster, currently underway, has 13 camps and covers areas such as Sauraha, Khagendra Malli, Lothar, Pratapur, Harda, Bot, Simar, Someshwar, Bagai, Ambua, extending to Shikaribas. According to the 2022 National Tiger Census, Nepal has 355 adult tigers, with Chitwan alone home to 128, followed by Bardia with 125, Bake 25, Parsa 41 and Suklabhata 36. Venezuela's interim president Delcy Rodriguez has insisted that her country was not subjugated by the United States following a U.S. military operation that resulted in the capture of deposed leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. The U.S. operation on January 3rd involved strikes in Caracas and other regions and led to Maduro's transfer to New York, where he has pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking and related charges. U.S. President Trump has since suggested the U.S. will oversee a transition in Venezuela, a claim Rodriguez and other Venezuelan officials have publicly contested. Rodriguez also said Venezuelans fought back during the attack, rejecting assertions by U.S. President Donald Trump that Washington now effectively runs the country. Moving on, Nepal has been defeated by Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held today. During the match held at TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur of Kathmandu, Scotland defeated Nepal by 27 runs. Chasing the 184-run victory target posted by Scotland, Nepal was limited to 156 runs in allotted 20 overs at the loss of 6 wickets. Nepal's Samdana Khotka scored the highest 52 runs. Similarly, Kabita Kaur made 29 runs, Captain Indu Verma 28 runs and Kabita Joshi 22 runs. Darcy Carter of Scotland took 3 wickets, while Catherine Bryce, Olivia Bell and Chloe Abel took 1 wicket each. Earlier chose to bat first after winning the toss. Scotland gathered 183 runs in 20 overs by losing 6 wickets. Catherine Bryce made 62 runs in 28 balls, while Priyans Chatterjee 40 runs. Likewise, Rubina Chetri and Kabita Kaur of Nepal took wickets each, while Riya Sharma and Rachana Chaudhary 1 wicket each. Now, the House of Representatives election is just around the corner. The preparations and political activity is heating across the country. We'll take you inside party campaigns, the rush to recruit election police and government's nationwide security preparation after this break. You are watching NTV World News Hour. Welcome back. As the House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5 approaches, political activity across the country is intensifying. Major political parties have submitted their closed list for proportional representation and are now focusing on selecting candidates for the direct election seats. In Bhaktapur, with the outcome of the upcoming election largely depending on direct candidates, parties are accelerating the process of recommendations, discussions and final decisions internally. In the eastern hilly district of Okhaldunga, election-related activities are picking up. From party assemblies and conventions to door-to-door campaigns and voter outreach, both new and established parties are actively engaging with constituents, creating a lively election atmosphere across the district. Applications for election police or temporary polling officers are seeing a rush ahead of the upcoming House of Representatives election. At the Kathmandu Police Office, a large crowd gathered from early morning to submit forms. For this election, the Nepal Police plans to recruit 133,980 election police personnel. A notice issued yesterday invited eligible candidates to apply for the recruitment process. Applicants can be submitted at all 77 district police offices until January 15. Applicants must be Nepali citizen, able to read and write, free from any criminal conviction and not affiliated with any political party at the time of recruitment. Training for the selected election police is scheduled from 29 January to 7th of February. Open borders and fugitive prisoners have emerged as the main security challenges as Nepal prepares for the House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5. This has prompted the government to roll out extensive security arrangements nationwide. More on this in a report.
More than 300,000 security personnel will be mobilized under a three-layer security system involving the Nepal Army, Armed Police Force, Nepal Police and Temporary Election Police. The Ministry of Home Affairs says the deployment will include 78,000 Nepal Army personnel, 70,000 Nepal Police officers, 34,000 Armed Police personnel, 150,000 Temporary Election Police and 2,000 staff from the National Investigation Department. The government approved the election security plan in November and recruitment for temporary election police is currently underway. Applications are being accepted until January 15. Nepal Police said election police will be deployed after completing required procedures. Nepal Police spokesperson Avinaran Kafle said security deployment has already begun based on assessments of local conditions.
संयुक्त एकल लगायत चाहिँ हाम्रो प्रहरी परिचालनको क्रियाकलापहरू सुरु भइसकेको छ र त्यसैगरी निर्वाचन प्रहरीकै नि भर्ना अब खोलिसकेको छौं आजबाट आवेदनै सुरु भइसकेको छ प्रत्येक जिल्लामा 1,33,980 चाहिँ निर्वाचन प्रहरी हामीले भर्ना लिने भनेर आजदेखि आवेदन सुरु छ र आवेदन हाम्रो सकिएपछि त्यसपछि हामी भर्ना छनौट प्रक्रिया सुरु गर्छौं र नियुक्ति दिन्छौं नियुक्ति दिइसकेपछि हामी तालिम पश्चात उहाँहरूलाई फिल्डमा खटाउँछौं.
Authorities said Nepal's open border poses monitoring challenges, while fugitive prisoners remain a security concern ahead of polling day. Police said efforts are underway to identify locations and arrest absconding convicts before the election. Security arrangements will cover 10,967 polling stations nationwide. Nepal Police and Election Police will be deployed in the inner security layer, the Armed Police Force in the second layer, and the Nepal Army in the outer. The President has approved the mobilization of Nepal Army for election security starting from February 4.
Now, in this context, we asked the general public about the current election atmosphere in their locality in our Public Pulse segment.
देशमा निर्वाचन हुन एकदमै आवश्यकता छ तर यो सबै दलहरु मिसेर 11 दल 12 दल त्यस्ता मिसेर हैन छुट्टा छुट्टै आफ्नो आफ्नो धारणा ल्याएर नेताहरु अब राम्रा नेताहरु सक्षम विकास गर्ने देश लुट्ने हैन विकास गर्ने नेताहरु उठेर उसमा उठ्नुहुन्छ भने चुनाव हुन अति आवश्यकता छ तर चुनाव नहुने भने देश लुट्यो छ अझै लुट्न सकिन्छ चुनाव त अनिवार्य हुन पर्छ.
अब अहिले ठुला दल र अहिलेको नयाँ पुस्ताले अब निर्वाचनलाई नै अब माहौल बनाएको देखिन्छ जहाँ तक लाग्छ मलाई निर्वाचन नहुने हो भने त यो संवैधानिक संकट उत्पन्न हुन्छ त्यसकारण निर्वाचन भएर देशलाई सुचारू रूपले ल्याउन पर्छ र लाने कन्डिसन पनि सबै मिलेर बनाउनु पर्छ र बनाए जस्तो पनि देखिन्छ
किनभने अब देशले छुट्टै रूप लिनुपर्छ ती 70-75 जना मरेका युवाहरूको तिनीहरूको रगत र पसिनाको पनि सम्मान हुनुपर्छ नयाँ युवाहरूको जुन जोस र जाँगरले तिनीहरूले अब आफ्नो माग पुरा गरिराखेका त्यो माग पुरा गर्ने र अब छुट्टै जनादेश ल्याउने भन्ने चाहना हुन्छ मैले अब चुनाव हुनैपर्छ तोकेको मितिमा चुनाव हुनैपर्छ
अहिले चुनाव जसरी पनि जुनै हालतले पनि चुनाव हुनुपर्छ किनभने यो जति जेनीले लडाइँ गरे युद्ध गरे अब यो युद्धको कारण के भन्दा यो पुराना नेताहरूलाई सम्मान गरेर सम्मानपूर्वक सम्मान गरेर थपक्क पेन्सन खुवाएर भत्ता गरेर सम्मान गरेर राख्ने नयाँ युवाहरूले चुनावमा उभिने नयाँ युवाहरूले देश चलाउने भन्ने लाग्छ मलाई त अब अरूलाई कस्तो लाग्छ
देश र जनताको लागि हुन अनिवार्य छ अब स्वच्छ निष्पक्ष चुनाव हुन देश र जनताको लागि अनिवार्य छ
Now, coming up after the break, Nepal's economy shows signs of resilience with rising reserves and strong remittances, but poverty remains a major challenge. And then we'll also take a look at what the UN's latest global economic outlook. Let's head on to the issue of the week. Welcome back. Nepal's foreign exchange reserves, current account and balance of payments recorded strong improvement in the first 5 months of fiscal year 2082-83 BS, supported by a sharp rise in remittance inflows. Nepal's central bank, the Nepal Rashtra Bank, reported that gross foreign exchange reserves rose to 3.2 trillion Nepali rupees, which is around $22.13 billion US dollars, sufficient to cover 18.2 months of imports. The current account remained in surplus at 358.83 billion Nepali rupees, that is 2.48 billion US dollars, and the balance of payments at around 2.91 billion US dollars. Remittance inflows increased 35.6% to approximately 6 billion US dollars, while exports rose 58.2% to 0.8 billion and imports grew 15.8% to 5.3 US dollars during the review period. However, the central bank noted that revenue collection, government spending and credit expansion remained weak despite easing inflation, which stood at 1.63% in mid-December. Despite improvements in Nepal's macroeconomic indicators, including rising foreign exchange reserves and strong remittance inflows, poverty remains a pressing challenge. Kathmandu, the country's federal capital, has the highest number of people living below the poverty line, according to a new report by the Central Bureau of Statistics. Here's a look.
Nepal's federal capital, Kathmandu, has the highest number of people living below the poverty line. While the percentage of poor people in Kathmandu metropolitan city is relatively low, in terms of absolute numbers, it surpasses all other municipalities in Nepal. Out of the total population of 862,400 in Kathmandu metropolitan city, 59,218 people are living below the poverty line. According to a report published by the Central Bureau of Statistics, this is the highest number of poor individuals among the country's 753 local units. On the other hand, the lowest poverty has been recorded in Khiling, Mustang's Kharpajong rural municipality, where only 44 out of 3,712 residents live below the poverty line. Poverty is measured based on an individual's annual spending capacity. According to the Bureau, a person who cannot spend more than 72,908 Nepali rupees, which is around $548 in a year, is considered below the poverty line. For a family of 4, this threshold amounts to a monthly expenditure of $188. Vice Chair of the National Planning Commission, Prakash Kumar Shrestha, says the report, based on local level statistics, is expected to play an important role in planning balanced development.
पालिका लेभलको तथ्याङ्कको आधारमा हामी पञ्चायतीकरण सूचक बनाएर त्यही हिसाबले समपूरक र इक्विटी बेस पहिला सबै जुम्ला जुम्लाको पालिकालाई पनि त्यही काठमाडौँ विराटनगरको लागि पनि त्यही समपूरकको हिस्सा थियो जसले गर्दा धेरै पछाडी परेका पालिकाहरूले सहभागी हुनै सक्दैनथे बजेटको अभावले त्यसलाई हामीले
While Kathmandu has the highest number of poor people in absolute terms, the highest poverty rate is found in Juni Chade rural municipality of Jajakot. In this municipality, out of the total population of 23,771, about 78% or 18,515 people live below the poverty line. Provincially, Sudur Paschim province has the highest poverty rate, while Gandaki province has the lowest.
Now, while Nepal's economy has shown signs of resilience with the rising foreign exchange reserves and strong remittance inflows, global economic trends suggest a cautious outlook. According to the UN's World Economic Situation and Prospects 2026 report, the global economy has remained steady, though below pre-pandemic growth rates. Navid Hanif, UN Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development, said that global growth is projected to stabilize at 2.7% this year, slightly below 2025's 2.8%.
As we bid farewell to a turbulent 2025, our assessment indicates that the global economy has demonstrated resilience. Growth has remained steady, below pre-pandemic rates, but stronger than previously anticipated. We project economic growth to stabilize at 2.7% this year, compared to 2.8% in 2025. Last year, sharp tariff hikes disrupted global trade. Yet the system proved more resilient than anticipated. But resilience should not be mistaken for strength.
The report warns that higher tariffs and persistent macroeconomic uncertainties could weigh more heavily on economics worldwide in 2026. Now, as Nepal's Tharo indigenous community prepares to celebrate the traditional Magi festival, settlements across 23 districts are alive with cultural programs and festivities. Magi, observed on the first day of the Nepali month of Magh, marks the Tharo New Year. The festival is not only a time of celebration but also an occasion for planning the year ahead, including agricultural, social and economic activities. Communities also select their village heads, known as Mahatwa, who play a key role in local governance and dispute resolution. Cultural performances including Magota dances and traditional Dhamar and Dumru music highlight the rich heritage of the Tharo people, strengthening community identity and promoting social cohesion across Nepal. The rich folk culture of the Tamang community in northern Nepal, Rasua, has become a key attraction for tourists. Integrating indigenous culture with tourism has generated income and employment while helping preserve and pass down traditional festivals in the verge of extinction. Our colleague Rojina Rai with local correspondent Susil Koirala explains more.
In the quiet settlement of the Tamang community in northern part of Nepal, Rasua, festivals are becoming more than just a cultural celebrations. They are drawing visitors from near and far, and travelers captivated by the unique traditions of the Tamang people. These festivals are windows into a rich heritage, inviting outsiders not just towards, but to immerse themselves in local life. Over recent years, this region has grown into a hub for tourists, both domestic and international, eager to witness the rituals and practices that define the Tamang way of life.
आन्तरिक र बाह्य पर्यटन बढ्यो खण्डमा होमस्टे व्यवस्थापन सञ्चालकहरूलाई अवश्य फाइदा पुग्नेछ।
With this influx of visitors comes opportunity. Tourism brings income, employment, and a chance to share the community's stories to the world. Along the Tamang Heritage Trail, winter festivals like Zezu and Mola offer an intimate glimpses into traditions, where each dance, song, and ceremony tells a story passed down through generations. For the locals, these festivals do more than entertain. They strengthen social bonds, foster unity, and remind everyone of the value of cooperation. Through music, performance, and communal celebration, visitors gain a true sense of Tamang culture, while the community takes pride in its enduring heritage. These ceremonies also carry a deeper meaning. Many believe they maintain social order, ward off famine, and even help curb diseases in the village, ensuring that every member of the community contributes. During the festivities, men and women dress in traditional attire, their dances and song echoing through the hills. The colors, the rhythms, the energy, they leave a lasting impression, creating an unforgettable experience for all who attend. In the Tamang festivals of Rasua, culture is alive, vibrant, and endearing, a living testament to a community proud of its roots and eager to share them to the world. Rosina Rai with local correspondent Susil Koirala, Rasua, Nepal.
It is now time for international updates, but before that, let's have a quick look at our headlines this evening. Nepal to enforce election code of conduct from January 17 launches election police recruitment process. Rift in Nepali Congress deepens as disgruntled faction intensifies preparations for special convention. Establishment faction urged delegates to refrain. Nepal's economy shows resilience with rising reserves and remittances. Poverty persists with Kathmandu leading in absolute numbers below the poverty line. 5 cameras installed for ongoing tiger census in Nepal's Chitwan National Park lost. 2 other cameras damaged by an elephant. Venezuela's interim president rejects U.S. control claims following Maduro's capture, adds Venezuela not subjugated by the U.S. And Nepal loses to Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held in Kathmandu. Russia has used the Oreshnik ballistic missile as part of a massive overnight strike on Ukraine. 4 people were killed and 25 others injured in Kyiv on Thursday night, where loud booms could be heard for several hours, setting the sky alight with explosions. It is only the second time that Moscow has used the Oreshnik, which was first deployed to hit the central city of Dnipro in November 2024. Russia's defense ministry said the strike was a response to a Ukrainian drone attack on Vladimir Putin's residence in late December, which Kyiv denies carrying out. The ballistic missile is an intermediate-range hypersonic missile, meaning it can potentially reach up to 5,500 kilometers. It is thought to have a warhead that deliberately fragments during its final descent into several independently targeted inert projectiles, causing distinctive repetitive explosions moments apart. Huge protests continue across Iran, with demonstrators marching in Tehran and other cities in the largest anti-cleric demonstrations in years. Protesters could be heard in the footage calling for the overthrow of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and the return of Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the late former Shah, who had urged his supporters to take to the streets. The protests come not long after Reza Pahlavi, whose father was overthrown by the 1979 Islamic Revolution and lives in Washington, D.C., had called on Iranians to take to the streets and as a united front. The unrest that has been sparked by anger over the collapse of the Iranian currency and has spread to more than 100 cities and towns across all 31 of Iran's provinces, according to human rights groups. According to the US-based human rights activist news agency, at least 34 protesters, including 5 children and 8 security personnel, have been killed and more than 2,200 people arrested during these protests. Now, moving on, China has made progress in scientific data simulation for the Chinese Space Station Telescope CSST, also known as the Shuaitan Space Telescope, marking a crucial step in preparing for the country's flagship space astronomy facility. A collaborative Chinese research team built an end-to-end observation simulation suite for both the telescope's main optical system and various observation terminals. The suite achieved high-quality pixel-level simulation of observation data, which will be used for the comprehensive evaluation of the telescope's overall performance. The research is expected to facilitate major scientific discoveries across various astrophysical fields, including cosmology, the study of galaxies, the Milky Way, stars, and planets. The CSST is an important component of China's space station. After launch, it will fly independently in the same orbit as the space station and can dock with the station for supply, maintenance, and upgrades. Now, in another development from the world of space, NASA said its crew members aboard the International Space Station ISS are expected to return to Earth within days after one astronaut experienced a medical issue. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman said it the first such medical evacuation in the orbital lab's history.
A single crew member on board the station experienced a medical situation and is now stable. After discussions with Chief Health and Medical Officer Dr. J.D. Polk and leadership across the agency, I've come to the decision that it's in the best interest of our astronauts to return Crew 11 ahead of their planned departure. In the coming days, the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft will depart the International Space Station with Commander Zena Cardman, pilot Mike Fink, Kimya Yui from JAXA, and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos, and safely return them to Earth. We expect to provide a further update within the next 48 hours as to the anticipated undock and reentry time. Over the last 5 months, Crew 11 contributed to the ongoing operations of the space station, conducted extensive scientific research, completed the majority of their mission objectives, and upheld the standards of professionalism for which astronauts are known. In the meantime, NASA astronaut Chris Williams, having launched to the station on November 27th on Soyuz MS-28, maintains our American presence in space and will support the space station's operations and scientific.
Now, a small Rhesus muntake, a deer native to China, has made headlines this week after confronting a much larger rhinoceros at Wrocław Zoo in southwestern Poland. The incident, captured on video and shared by the zoo on social media, shows the small deer weighing just a fraction of the rhino's 1.7-ton frame standing its ground against the massive animal. Wrocław Zoo described the encounter as a remarkable display of the deer's courage. Zoologists note that muntakes are naturally territorial and can display surprising boldness despite their small size. The zoo confirmed that neither animal was harmed during the interaction. The footage has drawn widespread attention online, highlighting the unexpected interactions that can occur in controlled zoo environments. We'll go for a short break here. Business news coming up. Stay with us.
France has announced it will vote against the European Union's proposed trade agreement with the Mercosur bloc of South American countries as opposition from farmers intensifies. The deal, negotiated over more than 25 years, would create one of the world's largest free trade zones and expand EU exports such as vehicles, machinery, wines and spirits to Latin America. Farmers in France and several other European countries fear increased competition from lower-cost agricultural imports, prompting tractor protests in Paris and other cities. While the European Commission has offered additional financial support for the farming sector, France said domestic political opposition to the agreement remains unanimous. The issue has exposed divisions within the EU, with Ireland also opposing the pact, while Germany, Spain and Italy support it for its broader economic benefits. EU member states are expected to vote soon on whether to proceed towards formal approval and signing of the agreement. Panamanian carrier Copa Airlines has announced it will resume its commercial flights between Panama City and Caracas, Venezuela, starting Tuesday, January 13, 2026, following improvements in operational conditions in Venezuelan airspace and at the Maiquetía airport. The airline plans to operate an initial daily frequency with a second flight reintroduced from January 16, which will operate several times weekly before becoming daily later in February. Copa had temporarily suspended its Caracas services in December 2025 amid safety concerns and restrictions affecting the region's airspace, which had prompted broader disruptions for international carriers. The restoration of flights marks a notable step towards re-establishing regular air connectivity between Venezuela and other parts of Latin America through Panama's transportation hub. Passengers are advised to check their itineraries and official airline communications for the latest updates. Argentina has secured a $3 billion loan from 6 international banks, boosting its foreign currency reserves as it prepares to meet more than $4 billion in debt payments due this week. The central bank said the deal is a short-term passive repo loan using Argentine government bonds as collateral with a maturity of just over 1 year and an annual interest rate of about 7.4%. The financing comes at a sensitive moment for President Javier Milei's government, which is trying to stabilize the economy amid low reserve levels and ongoing market pressure. Argentina's gross international reserve stands at about $44.2 billion, though analysts note that usable reserves are significantly lower. The country has a long history of debt crisis and has defaulted multiple times, including in 2001 during a severe economic collapse and again in 2020 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Chinese artificial intelligence startup Minimax surged as much as 78% in its trading debut in Hong Kong, raising about $619 million in an initial public offering that highlighted strong investor appetite for the sector. The listing followed another major AI flotation in the city this week, underscoring Hong Kong's growing role as a fundraising hub for technology companies. Founded in 2022, Minimax reports around 200 million users and develops several AI applications, including its video generation product, Hailuo AI. The company said IPO proceeds will be used over the next 5 years to advance foundational AI models and develop AI-native products. Minimax's leadership includes executives and researchers with experience at global technology firms, though the company is also facing a $75 million copyright lawsuit from major media companies, which it has disputed. The debut comes as artificial intelligence continues to expand rapidly worldwide, with growing investment and competition across major markets.
Time for sports update. Kazuyoshi Miura he remains determined to prove he can still compete at the professional level as the former Japan international prepares for his 41st season in football at the age of 58. Miura, widely known as King Kazu, has joined J3 League club Fukushima United on a 6-month loan ahead of the new Japanese season, which begins in early February. The move extends a career that began in 1986 and has made Miura the world's oldest active professional footballer. Miura earned 89 caps for Japan, scoring 55 goals, and played a key role in the national team's rise during the 1990s. His club career has spanned teams in Japan, Brazil, Italy and Australia, including spells with Santos, Girona, Yokohama FC and Sydney FC. Miura's latest move underscores his enduring dedication to football more than 4 decades after turning professional. Now, Manchester City boosted their attacking options on Friday by signing forward Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth for a reported $87 million. The 24-year-old Canadian international joins for the club as Pep Guardiola seeks to add depth and versatility to a star-studded forward line ahead of the remainder of the season. Semenyo, known for his pace, dribbling and goal-scoring ability, is expected to compete immediately for a place in City's attack. The acquisition underscores City's ambition to maintain dominance in both domestic and European competitions. Now the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. Now, before wrapping up, let's take a look into the headlines once again. Nepal to enforce election code of conduct from January 17 launches election police recruitment process. Rift in Nepali Congress deepens as disgruntled faction intensifies preparations for special convention. Establishment faction urges delegates to refrain. Nepal's economy shows resilience with the rising reserves and remittances. Poverty persists with Kathmandu leading in absolute numbers below the poverty line. 5 cameras installed for ongoing tiger census in Nepal's Chitwan National Park lost. 2 other cameras damaged by an elephant. Venezuela's interim president rejects U.S. control claims following Maduro's capture, as Venezuela not subjugated by the U.S. And Nepal loses to Scotland in the practice match for ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier held in Kathmandu. That is all for the moment. Do join us through our social media and visit us at www.nepaltelevision.com for more information and news. I am Iprulagi Singh Lama. Thank you for watching. Good night.